action items.
Already on it. It's listed as number 15. I call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Good evening. Councilmember Fritz,
Present.
Councilmember Niesel,
Here.
Councilmember McKinney, she's absent.
She was going to be online.
I believe she is online. I think I see her.
Councilmember Pompey,
Here. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver,
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Present. So at this time, would you please join us in a moment of silent reflection as we pause to remember residents and others who have passed away since the last council meeting? And we have one Greenbelt resident, Dolores M. Goodall. Let's pause for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Councilmember Fritz, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And Mayor Pro Tem, will you recite the Greenbelt Pledge, please?
Okay. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. We celebrate all people. By sharing together, all are enriched. We strive to be a respectful, welcoming community that is open, accessible, safe, and fair.
Thank you very much. So we hold council meetings 2 times a month, except for August and December, on Mondays to set policy and to take formal actions. Tonight's meeting is open to the public, as are all of our sessions and meetings, except for executive sessions as authorized by state law. Residents may observe our deliberations, and we'll pause periodically to provide opportunities for public comment. If you wish to speak during a designated time, one of those periods, if you're here in the room, just raise your hand. After being recognized, you can go over to the podium. You'll need to state your name and where you live, more or less, in Greenbelt. And we need that for the record. If you are participating on Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen or raise your virtual hand. We do not accept anonymous comments. And if you're watching remotely on YouTube or some cable TV, you can just send us an email at questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So in general, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. It's actually 5 minutes during petitions and requests, the next section of the agenda. And address only the topic under consideration. We ask that you remain civil and avoid disparaging others and questioning their motives. One other thing, we've placed a pad on the table as you come in, and we're going to begin to ask folks, if they don't mind, to actually sign in before, if they have a petition at the beginning of the meeting. It helps the city clerk to actually record the information accurately. And that is going to bring us to petitions and requests. This is a time when residents and others can make a statement to the city administration, to council, or in general. And once again, you've got 5 minutes to speak. If there's a number of you here on the same topic, we ask, in the interest of time, if you can, one person to speak on behalf of the number of people that may be here. So I'll go ahead and ask the question, are there any petitions or requests? See, Mr. Hartman has his hand up. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Cook Garden Way. I see on the consent agenda, there are 2 items I'd like to speak to. And the first is the letter F in number 5F. That's authorizing city manager to execute the contract with Innovative Pyrotechnic Concepts for the 2026 Independence Fireworks Display. I have a deep appreciation to the city manager and his staff in trying to find alternatives to fireworks. However, I still want to state my concern, my deep concern for infants and children, domestic animals, arboreal and terrestrial critters, the woods, the lake, and everyone else is affected negatively from fireworks. And I hope that in the next budget go-around that there be enough money to put in, either alone or perhaps working with the 4 cities or 3 other cities to share expenses in finding an alternative to fireworks. Because I think they're very, very dangerous on many levels. The other one I want to speak to real quickly is G, and that's authorizing the city manager to execute contract for renewal of natural gas supply for city facilities. And I'm wondering, just perhaps whimsically, are we ever going to get off fossil fuels? And I know there's the boilers and everything's old, but I'm hoping that we have at least a concrete plan, if it means putting money aside every year to build up to replacing the need for fossil fuels. I'd like to see that happen, which I'll also bring up during the budget process next year. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Petitions or requests? Please.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Whitaker. I'm the Executive Director for Ranked Choice Voting Maryland. I am a resident of Kensington, Maryland, and Montgomery County, but have enjoyed being a frequent visitor to the city here and enjoying everything it has to offer. This past November, Greenbelters overwhelmingly approved question 1 by a 2-to-1 margin, giving the council a clear direction to move the city elections forward towards ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is a proven voting method for fair representation, and my organization has knocked hundreds of doors over the last several months to speak to residents across the city. And the one thing that we learned was that Greenbelt is ready for ranked choice voting. It was clear in the discussions we had at the doors and during early voting and on election day. People have grasped the concept of ranking because we do it every day in our lives, from making choices about food to who our favorite sibling is. And somehow I always win that among my sisters, so it's great. Greenbelt is not alone in embracing RCV. Across the US, 19 cities held RCV elections this past November. That's over 5 million voters that had access to the ability to express their vote with ranked choices. And I'm excited for Greenbelt to join that list of places that are giving voters more choices and stronger voices. Today, I am urging and petitioning the council to take the next step to prepare the city to use ranked choice voting. I'm providing a packet of information with recommendations and fact sheets for the council and the Board of Supervisors of Elections to use. And I hope this information can be helpful and inform the work ahead. The recommendations include an outline regarding the current voting equipment capabilities, training, and procedural updates, and a timeline for implementation for the 2027 election. Greenbelt does have enough time to implement ranked choice voting for the 2027 election with fidelity, and we strongly urge the Council and Board of Supervisors to move forward in early 2026 to make sure that they can do the implementation well with all the relevant partners. Fortunately for Greenbelt as well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here to implement RCV. We can take on best practices that are available from neighboring jurisdictions like Tacoma Park, as well as Arlington, Virginia. Successful voter education material is available and we have examples from Portland, Oregon, as well as Minneapolis, Minnesota, and dozens of other cities and other localities to design Greenbelt resources that will help voters at the polls. And the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, also known as RCVRC, has a number of resources to support election administration at every step of the process. And I have included contact information and some of their fact sheet resources in the packet of information. On behalf of RCV Maryland, I affirm our commitment as a coalition to support voter education efforts. We plan to work throughout 2026 and 2027 to answer questions about RCV and conduct interactive voting demonstrations for residents. We are excited for Greenbelt and the opportunity for it to shine across Maryland. It will be the first city in Maryland to use proportional ranked choice voting. So it gets a first, as well as being a really great shining example for residents. And I look forward to working with all of you, as well as the board, to implement RCV and show the rest of Maryland that better elections are not only possible, but they strengthen our democracy. Thank you very much.
Any other petitions or requests, please?
I hope I'm not disturbing Louise Weissman. I live in Lakeside, North. I hope I'm not disturbing the order because this is about the charter amendment. But because I have a cold, I don't want to stay here and possibly get other people sick. So I just want to say stay. Want to ask if that would be okay.
It's your 5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. So there are two issues on the table. One is getting a foot in the door to make sure that the public works employees can organize and get a contract. The second is the language in the charter amendment. And as I'm going to go very quickly about the charter amendment. The thing that's very concerning to me is I have staffed boards. I have been on boards, and I've been on boards reviewing bylaws and all that stuff. And what is typically desired is to have the broadest language that you can so that we're not repeatedly each year, several times, having to come back and do another charter amendment. So where it says public works employees, I really urge you all to change it to all Greenbelt municipal employees have the opportunity to be in unions. As far as the specific campaign right now, unions are very important to me. It's like in my blood. Like other Ashkenazi Jewish immigrants, my family came over at the beginning of the 20th century, and my both grandfathers and a great uncle were members of unions. They taught us, they were instrumental in our very broad, crazy family in teaching us and making sure that we had values going out the door as young adults. I have also worked in an inordinate number of organizations where I have either worked for a union itself or I was working for an organization that was in the midst of an organizing campaign, and I was on the organizing committee. My first job was at the National Council of Churches, which many people say, how is this young Jewish girl being on staff at the NCC? We actually, in the early or mid 70s, started a campaign and we're working with one of the AFL affiliated unions to become one of their locals. A surprise that NCC management, who professed greatly that they were progressive, they went after the organizing drive with the intent of busting the union. What they thought they could do is put the existing staff association, which was kind of more social, on the ballot, and that is what won. And then they had to be alerted that now that the staff association has won, it's the management is obligated to negotiate with it. I have worked for one of the one of the presidents of one of the largest unions in the country as a scheduler. And it was like a gift from heaven to be able to work with this gentleman and to work with the 2 million members across the country that cared so much about being a part of a union, being part of a community, and being actually in a space that is inclusive and welcoming, as our statement says. And that is why I'm hoping that all of you, or the vote will be to support an amended to the amendment, and then to so that with and encouraging the organizing of the public works employees. Just to let you know, this is my grandfather's union. I was given it by the union. He was a 50-year member.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Are there any other petitions or requests? Mr. Orleans, please.
Thank you. I thank the previous petitioner for pointing out to me something I had been unaware of. On the agenda page, indicates that item 10 is the first reading of language concerning public works employees, but the paragraph beneath that suggests that it's public works employees and city employees. And very quickly looking at the first page of the resolution proposed for first reading tonight, it does in fact stress only public works employees. And I'm surprised I'm not following another resident of Greenbelt tonight who is an advocate, and a very good advocate for public works employees' right to organize and collectively bargaining. But each time he has done that, I have suggested that the amendment that should be adopted recognizes the right of all Greenbelt employees to, should they choose to do so, organize and collectively bargain. And I'm not fully understanding the discrepancy between the paragraph on the agenda page suggesting that it would be Public Works employees and city employees, and the resolution suggesting that it's just Public Works employees. I hope that that could be rectified tonight and answered tonight in real time. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can ask a question when we get to the agenda items. Certainly, you are welcome to be cognizant and provide an explanation on the alternatives. But are there any other petitions or requests? Not seeing any additional petitions or requests. Is there anybody online?
I don't see any raised hands. No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I just want to say that the petitions and requests, each petition is transcribed by the city clerk, and we keep a detailed record of exactly what was said. And the city clerk will share that transcript with the administration. They'll research the question, determine next steps, and report back expeditiously if that's called for. So I believe there is a page. We've been doing a lot of work on the website, getting the new website up and running. So I believe there will actually be a place on the website where you can take a look at former petitions and requests. So at this time, we need to go ahead and move into the formal part of our meeting. So the consent agenda, are there modifications to the consent agenda? Councilmember Fritz.
I ask that item F and G be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second for that amendment?
It requires a second to be removed from the consent agenda.
I believe it does, actually.
I always do, but I'll second that. I don't know that, I guess I'd have to check my Robert's rules. We always do a second for that, but yeah.
It does require the
Consent
amendment.
agenda is that it needs the consent of all the members to move. So to require a second would defeat.
Oh,
that.
that's true, yeah, pulling it off may not. Maybe, Mr. Deloach, you're here, you could tell us.
Requires a second, so.
Okay,
So at this time, let's go ahead and take a vote on the consent agenda as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. And that's going to bring us to the agenda itself. Are there modifications to the agenda? Yes, Councilmember Pompey.
I'd like to move item 15 up to item number 10.
Okay. And that item number 15, that is a discussion on the charter amendment for collective bargaining. So is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Fritz is seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The measure carries. Thank you so much.
And just to clarify, what was consent items F and G are now, would they become 22 and 23?
That's correct.
Okay,
22 and 23.
thank you.
Okay. So that's going to bring us to the next section of the agenda, the next item on the agenda, which is communications section. And under presentations, I have a proclamation for Human Rights Day. That would be Wednesday, December the 10th. I'll stand up and read it. Whereas Human Rights Day is observed each year on December 10th to commemorate the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. And whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights affirms the inherent dignity and equal and unalienable rights of all members of the human family as the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And whereas the City of Greenbelt is committed to fostering a community where every individual, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, age, religion, national origin, disability, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status, is treated with respect, fairness, and compassion. And whereas Greenbelt continues to take meaningful steps towards equity and inclusion through community engagement, education, and collaborative efforts that uplift human rights and promote the well-being of all residents. And whereas Human Rights Day provides an opportunity for the city and its residents to reaffirm their dedication to protecting human rights, challenging discrimination, and ensuring that Greenbelt remains a welcoming and inclusive community for all. Now, therefore, I, Emmett V. Jordan, by the authority vested in me by the residents and City Council of Greenbelt, do hereby proclaim December 10th, 2025 as Human Rights Day in the City of Greenbelt, and encourage all residents to observe this day by promoting understanding, mutual respect, and the shared responsibility to safeguard the rights and dignity of every person. So we have done this Human Rights Day proclamation each year for many years. So this anniversary, Eleanor Roosevelt, our patron saint, as it were, she was the driving force behind the Universal Declaration, serving as the first chair of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. Through persistence, moral clarity, and extraordinary diplomatic skills, she built consensus among deeply divided nations and turned a set of principles into a shared global standard. So as we mark Human Rights Day, let us honor her legacy, not just in words, but in how we treat one another, standing against discrimination, listening across our differences, and safeguarding the dignity of every person who calls Greenbelt home. So at this time, we're going to go to item number 8, minutes, and there's a statement of record regarding closed session on November 12th, 2025. Mayor Pro Tem.
I move that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that the council met in closed session on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 at 9:56 p.m. in the council chambers. Council held this closed meeting in accordance with Section 3-305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of the Public General Laws of Maryland. 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss the city manager's goal setting. Voting to close the session, Councilmember Fritz, yes. Councilmember Niesel, yes. Councilmember McKinney, yes. Councilmember Pompey, yes. Councilmember Pope, yes. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, yes. And Mayor Jordan, yes. Staff members present were Josue Salmaron, City Manager, and Dwayne Martinez, Director of Human Resources. And the actions taken were deciding on the framework for goals and the timeline for next steps.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Pompey has seconded. All in, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Niesel,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope, Mayor Pro Tem Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes,
Motion
yes.
carries.
Thank you, that measure passes. And that's going to take us to the next item, which is administrative reports. City Manager Salmaron, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mayor? Good evening, Council. Good evening, residents. It's been quite the week for us. We had a great week last week. We had a very successful District 22 legislative dinner. We made some good presentations overall. It was well attended. We had our controller there. So I thought great meeting, good setup for our 2 bond bill requests, which as a reminder is we're requesting funding for the pavilion, the Buddy Attic Park, and the ADA accessible path, and the lights at Shrum Hills Field and extension to the basketball court. So good event there. We had a successful ribbon cutting on the Americans Job Center, which is meant to be not just a workforce development center, but also an entrepreneurship center. Council has made significant investment and programs at the space located at the mall. We got a chance to do a dry run on our inclement weather preparations. If you heard the news, we were expecting up to 2 inches of snow, and we didn't see it, but we were prepared. Our salt trucks were prepared, but the snow didn't arrive in the quantity. But it allowed us to test a few of the procedures that we were exploring for this year. One was multi-jurisdiction coordination, particularly with the 4 cities. So we all got on emails and text messaging, making sure that we're all properly supplied with salt and equipment and staffing, and we're able to test those equipment, test our notification systems. We got an opportunity to see what the region COG continues to do a great job at convening all the stakeholders, the National Weather Service, the State Highway Administration, for the state of Maryland, the district, and Virginia. So a good coordination. We also got a chance to see the county's execution of inclement weather operations. So that's closing out the week. We had a couple great announcements for us. Just I shared with council earlier that we were awarded $150,000 in grant money for facade improvement program. So we expect the positive final approval from the Board of Public Works at the December 17th meeting. Once we have that approval, we'll start putting in the guidelines for how we will disperse those funds as grant funds. As a reminder, the $150,000 facade improvement grant is for us to run our own facade improvement program. So we'll have folks apply for grants to make improvements to their businesses. We are also expected to receive a final approval for the community center elevator at the December 17th meeting. Once that grant is approved by the Board of Public Works, we'll take it to the Department of General Services for final approval on the contract for the elevator. And then we can bring that back to council for approval, hopefully by the first meeting in February. And I hope we can get that elevator installed sometime in the summer or in the fall. It sounds so far away, but that's how long some of these things take. For example, our EV charging stations at the community center library, we've been at that from a permitting perspective for almost a year now. So things take time. So that's on grants. We also submitted applications for grant. I think you've heard me talk about the 2 big solar projects we've been working on. One is at the youth center, and the other one is Green Ridge House. So we submitted that application. We're looking at almost $900,000 in grant requests for over 400 kilowatt systems. So it's a sizable system. So if we're able to get those 2 systems, it's going to significantly offset the energy consumption at those facilities. I think this is something that I'm sure Mr. Hartman, all of us would appreciate, but Mr. Hartman wants us to electrify and decarbonize our buildings, and those systems, those really make an impact. I have much more to report in my administrative report, but I know we're pressed for time this evening, so I'll take your questions.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah, related to those grants, because I know Green Aces had talked about a second grant for that LGEM grant, or for, I think, more related to what Mr. Hartman was talking about at doing some studies about electrifying buildings. Did that one get turned in?
Yes, that's close to $270,000 to do an assessment of decarbonization of all city-owned facilities. The one particular element of that proposal that I'm especially, all of it is of interest to me, but one that I think it's going to have significant impact is looking at a geothermal system for the aquatic and fitness center. That's one of our facilities with the largest energy consumption because our pool is a little warmer than most, and it's a big facility. So that's included in the proposal.
Because I think one of the nice things about this particular pot of money was that it was allowing for some of those planning things, which isn't always, a lot of times, I think some of these grants and things are for more the construction stuff, they actually building the solar panels, for example. So I know that. So I'm glad to hear that one got submitted.
In a special note about this new LGM program, it's one time. So the program was changed to now it has $60 million in it, and this is the only time it's expected to be that size. So we did submit two applications, two solar projects and the assessment.
See, I have a question, but go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you. So Prince George's County recently lifted the breed ban on pit bulls. So does that mean our shelter will now be able to adopt those out to the general public? I mean, I think there's like a waiting period, like a 25-day waiting period or something like that from the time the bill was adopted. But we don't have any local breed bans, so we should be able to adopt out animals such that enter our facility.
Yes, that's the expectation. What we're doing with pit bulls, we have partnerships to get them out of state or get them to other facilities. So I think that now that when we're able to allow for adoption in the county, I think that should ease up some of the burden of our animal control staff.
I know that we sometimes have them for cruelty cases, and that they would have difficulty adopting them out because they could only adopt them out of county. So that's great.
Councilmember Pope.
Yes, but I think the pit bull ban, I think this is going to be valid in January, starting January? Not yet, right?
Not yet, that's the waiting period that Ms.
Have them, so, I mean, I don't think we have any currently, but
I'm not aware that we have any pit bulls currently.
starting January, we can adopt them out in case we do have them. Great.
Councilmember McKinney, did you have any questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I did have a quick question. I was just wondering, I thought that the legislative District 22 legislative and bond bill program went very well. I'm wondering, I think we should forward our priorities to our county council members. I don't know if they were CC'd on the information, but I think it would be a good idea to send them out to Councilmember Watson and maybe the at-large members or the county executive, just as a practice. They may be able to help us get some funding.
I can forward that presentation and materials to them. So you want it to go to all county council?
No, just to Councilmember Watson, to our at-large county council members, and to the county executive.
Hear that?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, we had two specific things on there, the standpipe color scheme and the WMATA Trail update. I don't know, I think the WMATA Trail update was included as a memo, so I don't know that unless there's anything really more to discuss for that, but do we need to discuss a little bit about the standpipe selection?
Two things on the standpipe selection. We have gotten an extension to submit our color scheme request in January. So we'll have that back to council in January, and we have released a survey to the public through our website. I believe that's live today, encouraging folks to make their options known. So we will circulate that, but we have more time.
Okay, so we don't need to take action on that tonight. Okay.
You had specifically, Councilmember Pompey, you specifically had asked about the WMATA Trail update. Are you good?
I mean, I read the memo, so that's good enough for me.
Okay. Did you need me to cover anything on the memo?
Well, I think just for the public's sake, if you could just give us a 2 or 3 sentence update, that would be great.
The memo essentially summarizes what we've done, which is council has approved a 90% design engineering, and we're working through that process.
Very good, thank you. And let's see, I see Mr. Orleans has his hand up. Mr. Orleans?
While Mr. Orleans is making his way up, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have submitted our annual audit to the state. So we completed our audit and made that submission on time. So we're now moving on to the federal audit.
And just one more thing, we're joined by our legal municipal counsel here, Jason Deloche, and would you like to, he's with us, virtually often, but in person, it's nice to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see everyone in person, and thank you.
Mr. Orleans?
I'm also happy to see our solicitor here tonight. Unlike himself and unlike counsel, I'm someone who thinks that the city solicitor should be here for every regular meeting, or someone from his office. Why don't we start the new year right? And whether he's asked to be here or not, the solicitor just show up at our regular meetings and surprise folks. I've actually had my hand up since the discussion of the reading of the statement of the closed session. I, of course, don't know what is in the entirety of section 3-06, parent C, parents 2 of the annotated code. But when it got to the end of that statement, apparently the function of the purpose for that closed session was to just hear from the city manager with regard to his goals, presumably the goals for the city of Greenbelt, not the goals just for his office in the city. And that's the kind of thing that I believe should be conducted in public session. And if in fact I'm correct in thinking that it was a meeting in which he was discussing his goals as city manager of the city of Greenbelt, I think more should be reported from that meeting than simply what has been reported. And in the future, when the city manager is engaging with council in such a discussion, council should plan for opening that discussion up. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, you're actually incorrect, Mr. Orleans. It was his performance goals. It was specifically related to Mr. Salmaron's performance goals, which is generally done in closed session appropriately for an evaluation of an employee.
Okay. So if no more questions, that's going to take us to the next item on the agenda, which will become item number 10. And that was formerly item number 15. That's a discussion of the charter amendments for collective bargaining. So the goal here is to provide a little additional clarity. We've got three different scenarios as far as this charter amendment that would be proposed for first reading. So it's two, and they are included in the packet. But just in terms of how we move ahead with this proposal, it's appropriate that we have a brief discussion. So Councilmember Pompey, you had moved, special ordered this item to item number 10. Did you want to start off the discussion?
Sure. As some of the earlier speakers have alluded to, there are two charter amendments regarding collective bargaining placed on the agenda for first reading. The first is to open collective bargaining rights to Public Works, and the second is to open collective bargaining rights to the entire, all of city staff. So this comes from the fact that back in September, Public Works came to the city and petitioned us to allow collective bargaining. And then it was, indicated that if others in the city, other city employees want to possibly form a union, that it might be better and easier for us now to just amend the charter once and allow for that bargaining. So we have both of those charter amendments on our agenda now. They are, as I said, essentially the same, except for who would be allowed to bargain. It wouldn't change who's in what unit, or, this doesn't mean that anyone necessarily is going to bargain or that they are forming a union. It would just basically give people the permission, or our staff the permission to do so should they choose. So that's what we have. Those are the two amendments. My preference would be for the Exhibit B, which is the All Employees Charter Amendment. I think it's just easier for us to now open up bargaining to anyone who is interested. That way, we don't have to come back and continually amend the charter anytime any members of our city staff would like to organize. So that's what I think about it.
Well, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that was the original request, was Public Works. I think there are some considerations related to the overlap of similar roles in other departments that I think we've gotten some advice related to that about the suggestion we start with Public Works because there are some types of employees that overlap between departments where that's less true in Public Works, that there's a little bit of it's very structured, I think, much more in Public Works, and I think there might be some additional considerations related to the employees in other departments that we've gotten some legal advice that we maybe should do Public Works first and hold off on the others, even if it means another charter amendment. I mean, we have actually moved through this for Public Works pretty quickly since the request just came in September, and we're getting it forward. I think I think we need to balance between being appropriately speedy and responding to requests, but also not moving too quickly if there are some considerations that might warrant perhaps a work session on the framework for the process for unionization for the rest of the city. So I think that's something that we should consider.
Councilmember Pompey, I believe you had actually asked about having a work session, but instead we sort of have moved to the step. Because it's a process that has to happen. If we, no matter what action we take today, a resolution would be entered for first reading, and that would begin this formal process that's outlined, where notice and public hearing would have to take place. There'd have to be a referral to the city manager and Human Resources Department before a second reading and subsequent action could take place, and possibly a ballot title as well. It's a very formal process that we would have to go through. So, that clear? Councilmember Fritz, please.
Yeah. I'm glad that we did a proclamation for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I think you noted Eleanor Roosevelt, you called her the patron saint of that document. In Article 23 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Part 4 says everyone, not public works employees, not the police, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his interests. And that was in 1948. President Roosevelt signed, whose picture's up in the back of the chamber, signed the National Labor Relations Act in 1935, 2 years before the city was founded. Nothing about this process, I think, is speedy. I think we're far behind in the same way we're far behind our climate goals, many of our other goals, and it's no one's fault, but I grew up in Catholic school, and, there's sins of commission where you do something bad, and there's sins of omission. And it's time and well overdue that we correct this sin of omission, that we have not recognized the human rights of our employees, that there have been partial exceptions, there's been asterisks to those employees for years, and it was one of the most important things I heard on the campaign trail. So I don't think we're moving too quickly. I think that the charter issue needs to be resolved quickly, and then we can work backwards as other units seek recognition. It'll be much easier to work backwards and work with those workers to figure out what is an acceptable bargaining unit for them, right? So I've worked for, wall-to-wall unions. I've worked for much more sector-focused unions, so public works employees are seeking to unionize as public works employees. Other jurisdictions, our librarians are unionized with UFCW. They're organized as librarians. But oftentimes you see unions of whole governments, entire Montgomery County government has 2 bargaining units for 500 job classifications. And it works pretty well for them. And I think it should be up to the workers, not to the city, to decide, who gets to unionize when. And I think we should correct that quickly. And if there are smaller issues that we need to fix to figure out where we draw the lines for other bargaining units that are at this point hypothetical, I think we can do that through the code. We don't need to do that with a charter amendment, but I think the charter needs to be fixed now so that we can get this process underway. Thank you.
Councilmember Pope?
Thanks. I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Weaver's comments, and I do want to point out that we do have a recommendation and go on how we should move forward at this time. I don't think that we're denying anyone the right to unionize. I don't think that's the point. I don't think that we had any human rights violations, at least not that council heard about it, not that I heard about it. Maybe you might. I'm not sure. We have not heard that from City Manager Salmarom as well. So I would suggest that we proceed with first reading of changing the charter amendment collective bargaining rights for public works employees at this time.
Thank you, thank you. Councilmember McKinney, did you have a comment? Or Councilmember Niesel? Councilmember Niesel? Is your microphone on?
Did you say Diesel, Councilmember Niesel, if you want to go ahead, I'll go after you.
Okay, I just had a question. Thank you.
Yeah.
If we move forward with the broader, I just want to make sure that I want to make sure that the employees who have asked to form a union are responded to. And I want to make sure that if we do the more inclusive charter amendment, that doesn't impact the timeline of public works employees, because what I'm hearing by the retrofitting is that it may cause more issues. So I guess I just want to understand a little bit how the more inclusive charter amendment language could impact public works employees. Like, would it need to be the 70% with all of the employees who could be included in this broad scale? Or would public works be its own chunk and 70% of them? Our solicitor for an answer.
I'll jump in. The legal advice or the legal consultants for this project have been our collective bargaining legal team, so it hasn't been Mr. Deloach. So I think that question would be more appropriate for. I think it would depend on that designated group. Is that designated going to be group whoever the bargaining unit? And this is just me without having discussed it specifically with legal. Whether that designated group is going to be limited to public works or employees that share that similar function and role, right? Because there are labor class that cross departments. So I think I wouldn't know that I don't think we are at that point whether the designated the union to represent that group is going to be solely for that public works employees because they work for a public works department or because they are part of that same labor group. I couldn't answer your question whether it's that going to delay the vote or dilute the vote, or what does it do for the process of recognizing that group.
Guess what I'm saying is, by making it an umbrella charter amendment, are we then umbrellaing all of those employees?
I understand what your question is, and I didn't advise you on this, but my thought is you have the police department, you have the public works department, and then you'll have another department that can probably do it separately. But I think we need to get that question before the Labor Council to see if that's it. But I think I see your point is, these are the folks that asked for it. And now we're being inclusive of folks who haven't asked for it. Are we gonna then slow down? Right, yeah.
So we don't have a clear answer.
I'm sorry, I haven't, I wasn't advised, but I think my gut tells me that the Public Works Department will be able to do it on their own if they're separate departments. How many departments do we have?
We have multiple departments, but the discussion is on public works.
Yeah.
Then we have recreations, personnel.
Yeah.
And as is deemed in our rules, we allow each council person to express their opinion before we circle back around. So I'm going to turn to Councilmember McKinney.
Okay, thank you so much. So just to make sure I'm understanding, there's still an open question then on whether or not other employees that may not be in public works, but could be in other departments, but still have the same job classification, because they have a similar job classification, they could be part of this union or not? Do we have the answer to that question? I just want to make sure I understand what's still outstanding.
No, I don't have that, I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay. And sorry, if I can have one more follow-up then. So this is presented at first reading. Would we be able, how quickly would we be able to get the answer to that question?
Well, I would assume that we'd be able to get an answer to that question expeditiously. But as you just stated, this is a resolution for first reading. And we're not going to vote on this, but we'll read one of these into the record. And subsequently, during the second reading, we would have a broader discussion, a detailed discussion. But the practice of the city council is with resolutions is to, for the first reading, read them into the record. Second reading, we have a detailed discussion. Does that answer your question?
So if we were to, it somewhat does. So if our choice was to read the resolution that defines this as public works, because we're reading it into the public record now, we could not go back necessarily and say public works is defined as this. Is that correct?
Well, I think with these resolutions, if there's a substantive change between the first and second reading, then it needs to be reintroduced.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to state where I'm coming from a little bit. You know, this clause has been in the charter for quite some time, and it was put there for a reason. But to me, you know, I am passionate, I'm concerned, and want what is best for employees. So forming a union, it's not something that you just do. There's quite a bit of organizing that has to take place. And I think that any group of employees that can get to that point should be able to move ahead. So that's, in general, that is where I'm coming from on this question. I think there are these two proposals. One of them actually calls out non-classified, non-managerial, and non-professional city employees as opposed to specifically public works. So in my mind, in my heart, although this item has been in the charter, if any group of employees get to the point where they are ready to certify a union, I'm open to it. A charter is something that you want to not amend too often. And of course, we have a charter review coming up. We just impaneled a group of individuals representing a pretty good cross-section of Greenbelt to review the charter. So these questions about the charter may be some of the ambiguities or things that don't need to be in there that still are will be cleared up subsequently. But this is a question that we need to deal with now. But even in dealing with it, it's gonna take some time. And our public works employees, if they want this, they're going to have to. They've got a lift to accomplish to get to that point. And I don't want to minimize that. So, Councilmember Pompey, please.
Yes, to Councilmember Niesel's question, the only unit that has requested the right to organize right now is Public Works, and they are attempting to organize with LIUNA, which is the laborers union, and LIUNA only organizes laborers. So no one outside of Public Works would be eligible to join this union. This is specifically a union just for Public Works. So it wouldn't be like other staff from other parts of the city could join this specific union. If they wanted to join a union, they would have to organize for their own contract and frankly, with a different union, because the laborers, they don't organize, say, like recreation employees or administrative employees. They just organize laborers.
Councilmember Fritz.
And there are, there's might be another department under the broad aegis of, recreation and parks, and then public works, and then police. The memo does reference non-sworn, because the code currently only allows sworn public safety employees to unionize. So only officers, So there is the case, would the non-supervisory, non-confidential employees such as dispatchers, and I've someone who has represented dispatchers, and it is a very tough job, and it's a very hard job. They save lives. They are first responders too, and so often you see them cut out of collective bargaining rights, as was done in the past. I'm not saying anyone on this council did that, but just to say only sworn public safety employees can unionize, but police dispatchers who are trying to save lives and oftentimes give instructions for CPR over the phone, who need mental health support and should have a collective voice on the job to talk about working conditions. This is a very important issue to me, and, I really would not be comfortable moving forward with legislation that leaves anyone out.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, I should have called you first.
No, actually, I think Councilmember Fritz had their hand up first. Actually, I think reading this carefully, I think it actually does leave the dispatchers out, because the way it's phrased for our Exhibit B is representatives of non-managerial sworn police officers of the City of Greenbelt, Maryland Police Department, and designated representatives of non-managerial, non-professional employees of all other city departments. So I think actually Exhibit B I think that's why this is a problem, is that we need to have more work sessions about this, because I think there may be overlap. But right now, the way I read this, it actually wouldn't allow the dispatchers and the admin staff and other things in the police department to be allowed to unionize. And I think and this is the sort of thing that I think would come up if we had further discussion. So I think, especially given that, and that's what I was going to say before you even said that, is like, wait a minute, if you read this carefully, it actually doesn't cover everybody. I think we should move forward with Public Works because they've requested it, and it's much cleaner, because we want to make sure we're doing it properly, even if that means another charter amendment. Yeah.
It's interesting. Councilmember Pope.
Thank you, yes, and I agree with you, and thank you, Councilmember Fritz, for bringing that up, because actually at National League of Cities, at the Public Safety Committee, when we're sitting in there, they are going to revising a few items, because who is actually a first responders? And a discussion came up that actually first responders, if you're a dispatcher and you're on the phone and keeping this person alive and, trying to give directions on what to do until the actual responders get there, they actually should be considered first responders as well. And they also need the same services and the same assistance than our actually police officers in our fire department, first responders get. So yes, they should be included in that as well. So I appreciate that you brought that up. And that is a greater discussion in the National League of Cities as well. So, but I do agree. I think we should go ahead and move for first reading charter amendment, collective bargaining rights for public works employees.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I mean, I think we were waiting to do that in the next agenda item, actually. So I'm not sure, actually, we should wait. It's now.
Yeah, it's charter amendment. It's for first reading.
Yeah, but we have to decide which one to.
So I guess
move
Ms.
forward
Pope is
with.
suggesting to move that one forward, which then we would introduce for first reading
What
in
I
the
asked,
next
yes.
agenda item. Yeah.
Okay, so we got a little discussion here. Councilmember Niesel, McKinney, did you have any additional comments? Councilmember McKinney, did you have an
Not
additional
at this
comment?
time. No, thank
Are we
you.
going to take public comment?
Yeah, we are. I'd like to say, as we've had this discussion, it's clear to me that we really do need to have a work session to hammer out some additional, to be precise in what we're doing as we move ahead. Because we've got this on the agenda tonight, we can certainly introduce something for first reading. And if necessary, we can come back and modify it. So we have a motion on the floor. Let's take some public comment. Mr. Orleans?
Thank you. I agree with the sentiment suggested tonight by some, too few, but some, that Greenbelt and Greenbelt's council should recognize the inherent right of all of its employees to organize, should they choose to do so, and collectively bargain. Though there are many in this room who have not paid that close attention to council over the years, but had they, as others have, they would recognize that there's a tendency on Greenbelt Council to put off till tomorrow what they put off yesterday. This is an old suggestion that Greenbelt should recognize the right of its employees to organize, should they choose to do so. That it's finally on the agenda, I'm thrilled to see and listen to, but there's no need to prolong the ultimate question that 7 people have to vote to make. And it's not necessarily a ballot question for the future. Council enjoys the authority to amend the charter on its own. It's done so many times in the past when it's wanted to. When it has not wanted to, it puts things on the ballot and then sometimes rejects what the vote of the ballot was for as long as possible. There's no need prior to the determination of Greenbelt employees who say, yes, we want to organize, and with the charter change, knowing that they can, upon organization, begin to discuss with city management the details of both their organization's relationship to the city and their wages, hours, and working conditions. But there's no need prior to that determination on the part of those city employees who choose to do so in whichever department of the city. There's no need for the city manager and the City of Greenbelt's Human Resources Department to review and recommend anything. This is a decision of council. Council either will vote to recognize the right of employees to organize, should they choose to do so, and engage in collective bargaining, or it won't. If they choose to do so, then city manager will be definitely involved and the process will work itself out. But first and foremost, it's a decision that council has to make. All 7 of you, are you prepared to recognize the right or not? Prolonging that decision of the 7 of you is unnecessary, and it's not helpful to good employee relations in the future.
Thank you, thank you. Please, Mr. Learman.
Yeah, I just want to recognize Robbie. He's getting his 25-year certificate for Department of Public Works tomorrow. So I just appreciate you, Robbie. So yeah, I'm an organizer with the Laborers Union, and obviously my obligation is to supporting the workers who are going to be laborers, and that is the Department of Public Works, and therefore we want to move that as quickly as possible. I also deeply believe that, as Bill has shared and others have shared, that this is simply opening it up to all employees, giving all employees the right to form a union. They then have to decide whether or not they want to do it. And as Mayor Jordan mentioned, jumping through all the hoops to do it. It's not like, I'm definitely not going to talk to the other workers. They have to decide if they want to do it or not. That's a whole separate process. This is just giving them the right to be able to do it. Plain and simple. It's very simple. So, you know, as quickly as I want to move this, you know, obviously to allow the Department of Public Works to do it, I would hope that we could not have to revisit this. And if you all want to put in the work to revisit it, then, you know, move it as quickly as possible, because it's just like, I just feel like it's adding more work on you all to do that. But I will say, you know, I want to bring up too that, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but it does play into things. The attorney, the labor attorney for the city of Greenbelt is Jackson Lewis. Jackson Lewis is the biggest union busting law firm in the country. And from my understanding, this labor attorney is making a lot of money from Greenbelt taxpayer dollars. Anyways, that's a sidebar. I'm not going to go there, but I already did. I want to just say, look, move the amendment. We need to get this passed. We need to allow people to have the right to unionize. Thank you.
Let's see, who's next? Please.
Hey there. John Appia Duffel, Forecourt Garden Way. I will try to keep it brief. Just state outright, granting our workers the right to collectively bargain is the right thing to do. Indeed, it's an extension of our inalienable right to free association. Over the last several months, I had the pleasure of knocking over 2,000 of my neighbors' doors in the city of Greenbelt. I spoke to hundreds of voters across every neighborhood of our city, and I talked to a lot of people about labor rights for city workers specifically. I have some good news for you. The idea of allowing all city workers to unionize is wildly popular in Greenbelt. We see attacks on workers all over the country, and of course, many of the federal workers, especially in our city, have fallen victim to those attacks from our own government. We see in Greenbelt, we see and understand that action has to be taken to strengthen the rights of workers, particularly in a time such as this. And amid so many assaults on democracy, we should also remember that organized labor is a pillar of democratic strength. So, lucky you. The right thing to do also happens to be a very politically popular thing to do. I am hopeful that you all will, in short order, grant all city workers the same rights currently afforded to sworn officers in the police department. And if it's not too presumptuous, thank you in advance for doing so.
Okay, yes, please, Ms. Smithers.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council and everybody gathered here. If you don't have a voice, you don't have a choice. If you don't have a choice, you don't have a voice. Two sides of the same coin. Without this coin, we don't get the opportunity to ask questions, important questions that impact our lives, let alone answer them. To unionize or not to unionize is the question, and workers in the city of Greenbelt, and everywhere for that matter, should have the right to ask and answer this question according to their own dictates. This is why we are requesting the City Council to amend the charter to afford this right to the Department of Public Works workers and hopefully to all Greenbelt workers to ask and answer this question. In conclusion, we live in an era where our voices and choices, essentially our right to vote, are under assault. And the right to vote is the hallmark of a free and democratic society. We are putting the cart before the horse. We can do all of that other stuff, who's who, where, what, blah, 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 after the fact. As Eleanor would have noted, and Eleanor would be saying, hey, there are no conditions. There are no conditions for this part of the Declaration of Human Rights 23. So I say a reminder to all workers and citizens, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Hey, Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. as was stated before, the time to act is now. History is full of regrets of we should have done this when we had the chance. Council members change, city managers change, although I hope not soon at all. But perhaps in the future, other councils might not be so inclined. Other city managers may not be so inclined. So now is the time to act. And however you do it, it's very critical that you're responsive to the needs of the employees in question. And I hope that you make it possible for all employees to unionize at the appropriate time and the appropriate way, and with whatever bargaining unit they will want to join, not just public works employees. So I understand the desire to be responsive to public works employees at the moment, but I think that a general amendment that allows all employees to unionize and then work out later which employees want to work with which unions. But I think it's important that all employees have that right as stated in the charter amendment. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, you had a.
Yeah, I can wait till the last.
Okay, please. Except Nirvana, I think the gentleman there in the black. Why don't you go ahead, sir?
All right. My name is Dami. I'm a graduate of Eleanor Roosevelt. I graduated in 2019, and I'm a political organizer of DSA. And for years, I've interacted with workers around the community and municipal workers, and they are some of the hardest workers ever. Giving public works employees the right to collectively bargain is a great step for workers in the city. But the city can move further, and altering to the charter for all workers can make all of your guys' lives easier as council members. You won't have to litigate this again and have other staff actively have to struggle with lower pay for months before they petition you again. And why even wait? Collective bargaining can also increase labor productivity. Economists have argued for years that better wages are some of the easiest and most cost-efficient ways to increase local productivity. And who does this better than unions? When workers have more money in their pocket, it allows for a much wealthier and much more prosperous city. Please make this right. Please vote for a more prosperous green bill for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Nirvana, please.
Hi, my name's Nirvan. I'm on Springcrest off of Hanover. I want to echo all the supportive comments for guaranteeing the right of all workers of the city to unionize. I wanted to raise some objections to the union and present some replies to that, because I figured not too many people here would raise those objections. So back in the 1930s, when the NLRB was being formed, Councilmember Fritz talked about that. One concern about public sector unions was that this would give rise to the risk of a strike on essential services. And this is not an idle concern. This is not an idle concern. In Philadelphia, in the middle of the summer, I think, there was a sanitation worker strike and trash did pile up. But I used to live there and I was keeping track of the Facebook groups. And I did notice that large swaths of the public did not object to assuming temporary hardship in solidarity with their public workers. The city of brotherly love demonstrated what it means to support the freedoms and rights of association and collective bargaining for all workers as a matter of basic decency and dignity. The law is like a mirror. It reflects the values of the society. Greenbelt being founded on principles of cooperativity, our charter naturally should protect the rights of all public workers to organize a union, collectively bargain, and yes, even go on strike without retaliation. I'll close with a reminder of a historical fact that MLK Jr.'s last days were spent in support of the sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee, as they were struggling for recognition of a union. Thank you.
Well, thank you, thank you. Are there other comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, so I am supportive of allowing all city employees to unionize. I don't think we have the right language here tonight. I think that's the problem. I think the language we have as option B before us excludes people rather than actually being inclusive. So I know we have some open work sessions very early in January. So I think in order to not delay Public Works, because they have already asked us to do that, and I think that is a much more clear cut, I think we should go forward with that charter amendment tonight and schedule on either the 5th or the 7th, that very first week in January, that I know we have open work sessions, schedule a work session to talk about the implications, because I do think that the language that we have here, I hadn't fully thought through it. I'd read it before, but hadn't fully thought through it of sitting here tonight. And I don't think it's the right language to allow of all city employees, because I think it actually excludes some people. So I think that's what that balancing, again, the moving quickly upon request, but also not moving ahead, because if we pass this and it leaves people out, we have to make another charter amendment anyway if we want to allow everybody, including those non-sworn officers in the police department, to unionize.
Well, thank you. I do concur that we have a couple of open work sessions in January, which is roughly 3 weeks from now, where we can talk about these broader issues, come up with language, and also get a broader cross-section. We have the folks who are here in the room. We have other people in the community that might have opinions. You know, our role as city council people is to protect the best interests of our employees, but of the city as a whole, all of our residents. And I think we need to be very cognizant of that. To me, it is not as didactic as some people have put it. Either you're this or you're that. Yeah, I think that these broader changes in the charter that need to be made can be considered in a timely fashion. But be that as it may, we have a motion on the floor, and I think that I don't think that we're going to get much further than where we are. I think we should vote on the motion that's on the floor, but I'll allow Mr. Fritz, council member.
I'll just say that, we were supposed to have two options tonight. We were supposed to have an option one, which was, the faster route to help Public Works employees, which I understand the intention of doing that. There's a clear community of interest that's asking for something immediately versus the abstracted right. I understand that. It's not my position, but I understand it. It's a valid and understandable position. And then the second piece was supposed to be universal language, right? Or as close to universal as we get under our model of labor laws. In the United States, we don't have management unions. Some countries, they do have management unions, but we're following the norms of the United States. Could we get the language put up on the screen for the second? I just want folks in the audience and online to be able to see the language for the second, the all-inclusive language. Possible.
City manager?
Do you have it, Ms. Anderson?
So the amendment?
The amendment, yeah, I just want folks to show, because it's not complicated. I just want folks to see the language before we move on. So yeah, if you can, no, that's fine. Just what would actually change, the change that we're talking about here, I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. That's the second proposal that we used outside counsel to bring to us. We asked them to include everyone. And as the mayor pro tem noted, after not a long amount of inspection, it actually leaves out employees that they noted in their own memorandum. They said, we don't know what we're going to do with dispatchers. And then they leave out dispatchers in the language. And I'm not going to tell a lawyer joke. I could. If folks want to, I'll say it after. But, they get paid hourly. But justice delayed is justice deferred. That's Samuel Johnston. it is really important that we move expeditiously, and we have been impeded by our own hired counsel to move expeditiously on this, which was a relatively straightforward request. They left out a case of employees that we knew, that they specifically noted in a memorandum to us. So I'm frustrated with the representation that we have, that, we asked them, can we move expeditiously? We know this is a priority for city residents, and we are paying a very healthy rate for their services. So when we take this vote today, just know that we were given one option that they've recommended, and then they gave us a second option, but the second option doesn't do what we asked them to do. And it is not a verbose, long-winded thing that we are voting on tonight. It's pretty straightforward, but it still left out employees, dispatchers, first responders who save lives, when they knew that that was an edge case that would have to be addressed in this legislation.
Councilmember Pompey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm willing to move forward with the charter amendment supporting public works employees because they have been waiting and they deserve to have the ability to organize. I also just wanted to say that I did request that we do a work session and was told we don't need a work session on this, sitting right here on this dais, which is very frustrating to me. I am happy to move forward with this as long as we are doing our work session. We can schedule it at the end of this meeting, as long as we schedule that work session to discuss with the inclusive language early in the year so that we're able to start moving forward on that as soon as possible.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of proceeding with the resolution, which specifically calls out the public works employees, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion carries 6-1. So at this time, would a council member like to read that resolution into the record for first reading?
I will read it into the record.
Thank you.
For first reading, resolution of the City Council of Greenbelt, Maryland, introducing for first reading on Monday, December 8th, 2025, a proposed amendment to the city charter to establish collective bargaining. Hold on, let me make sure I'm reading the right one here. I'm reading the wrong one. Apologize for that. Let me start over. For first reading, a resolution of the City Council of Greenbelt, Maryland, City Council introducing for first reading on Monday, December 8th, 2025, a proposed amendment to the city charter to establish collective bargaining rights for eligible public works employees, directing notice and public hearing, providing for subsequent readings, and otherwise providing for submission consistent with applicable law.
Thank you very much for reading that into the record. That'll come up at a council meeting. And at the close of this meeting, council meeting tonight, as we discuss meetings in January, we can schedule the work session on this topic. But for now, that's going to bring us to item number 11 now on the agenda. What was previously entitled ordinance number 11, that's parking regulations for electric vehicle charging stations at the municipal building. Included in the packet for the meeting tonight is an ordinance for parking regulations for electric vehicle charging stations in front of the municipal building. The item is presented for introduction and first reading at tonight's meeting as well. Is a council member willing to read that into the record?
I would be happy to, unless somebody else wants to. I move for first reading an ordinance to amend the City of Greenbelt Code to authorize the regulation of plug-in parking within the corporate limits of the city.
Thank you very much. That also will come up at a future council meeting for action. It was previously entitled item number 12. We'll move to that now. That's a resolution authorizing the city manager to implement electric vehicle charging fees and operating procedures for the electric vehicle charging stations at the municipal building. So there's a resolution that was introduced for first reading by Mayor Pro Tem Weaver. And at this time, it can be reintroduced for second reading and adoption. Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, would you like to read that item as a second reading for possible adoption tonight?
Yeah, I move for second reading and adoption, a resolution authorizing the city manager to implement electric vehicle EV charging fees and operating procedures for city-owned and operated charging stations, EVSEs.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We can have a little brief discussion on this topic. I do want to note that the resolution is written in such a way that the city manager both is enabled to set, but also to adjust the EV fees. Council received an email on this topic this afternoon that had a few suggestions, a couple of items that we had not considered, but by moving forward with this resolution as written, the city manager is enabled, he can change that, he can adapt the pricing so that it is in the best interest of the city and also of the folks that use the charging station to encourage them to use it. Is there any additional discussion? I see someone here, but any council members would like to comment on this? I'll recognize Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. John Lippert, Chair of Green Aces and the Green Team, 30 Ridge Road. Somehow I missed reading number 1 on this one. I just have a comment and a question. It mentioned that the rate is going to be what the Pepco network rate is. And I was very surprised and very pleased to hear that because that's a very good rate. And then it said in the reading, if I recall correctly, and the city manager can adjust it so that it covers electricity, maintenance, and what was the third one?
Operational.
Pardon me?
Operational.
Operation, right. When we had the DC fast charger, one of the problems after we had gone from free to having the users pay for the service, we found that it was pretty expensive for that, adding that part for collecting fees. So does the Pepco, because I know Pepco, you know, they can, their cost of electricity is a lot lower than what the cost is that Pepco gives to us. Will the Pepco network rate cover all those three things? That was the only thing that I was wondering about.
Mr. Summerone, are you prepared to answer that? Now, once again, this resolution, as it's written, gives you the capacity to amend the rates and to adjust based on new information that we may have received or suggestions like what Mr. Lippert is sharing. But would you like to respond to his suggestion?
Yes, I can, and with some limitations. The short answer is no, it would not cover its entire maintenance and operating cost. I believe that the rate itself can cover our kilowatt cost, our supply cost, because up until January, we have negotiated electricity at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. But January 1, we kick over to the standard offering price by Pepco, which is 13 cents a kilowatt hour. The procuring energy for the city has been challenging because when we turned on our 2 megawatt system, that took a lot of the load off our consumption, which the broker that we were working with could not find suppliers that were willing to give us a contract for energy. So we've been waiting on to gather enough generation data that would make the suppliers comfortable to enter into an energy contract with us. The rate at 13 cents a kilowatt hour, buying from Pepco at 13 cents a kilowatt hour and us charging 17 cents, that only leaves a 4-cent spread to cover the distribution charge and all the other fees that are part of the Pepco charge. So at that rate, I don't think that we would fully cover our supply and distribution charge. And John, I think you're tracking all of this. You know all the things we're talking about. However, We are actively looking for new energy contracts. We have a 2 megawatt system that is offsetting our consumption. And in that power that we're buying from through our 2 megawatt system costs us 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So if the power was solely relying on the 8 cents kilowatt hour, 8 cents per kilowatt hour that we're buying from the solar farm, I think will be enough to offset. I think at 10 cents, if that was our supply cost, we will cover our cost of this machine. But I think for the purposes of where we are in the program, I would like to have the authority implement a rate, track it for a couple months, see how this evolves over time, and also explore energy contracts to reduce our supply cost.
My question was, it said two things. It said the Pepco network rate and, Mr. Summerone, you have the authority to change it to cover electricity operation and maintenance. And I see where sometimes one may not be.
Yeah.
So do we want that and? That's the thing.
I do want the and, but I do not plan to operate a charging station that exceeds the prevailing market rate of surrounding stations. I would not be interested in having a higher charging fee than those around us. Pepco is 17 cents, IKEA is 19 cents, Tesla at the Royal Farm is 40-some cents during peak hours, 23 cents off peak hours, and that's fast chargers.
Yeah, I was going to say that those are DC fast chargers, but.
Okay. Yeah, I'm comfortable with granting Mr. Summerone the ability to take these factors into account and come up with a proposal. I suppose it could come back to council, but the way that this resolution is worded, in whether an and or an or, I think that we can move on this and leave it to you to update us on amendments or substantial changes to the proposal as written. Any other comments from council? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I think just the urgency is to get something in place so that we can start charging. Not that it isn't nice, my car's plugged in there right now. Not that it isn't nice to have the free charging, but I don't think we want to delay in having some kind of charge, and then we can reevaluate later if we're not covering our costs. But again, as nice as it is to be free, I think we need to at least be covering our costs.
Well, I just wanted to ensure that Mr. Summerone had, by that language, the opportunity to modify it if need be, even if it had to be above the Pepco network rate. Thank you.
And Mr. Summerone, you sort of proposed a trial period where you would evaluate the utilization and another look in a couple of months. I believe that's what you said, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ms. Rosenthal, please.
Good evening, Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. I'm sorry, I wasn't 100% following because I thought you were going to be talking more about the ordinance about whether or not a gas guzzling car could park in an electric vehicle space or not, and what the fee would be. But I guess the other half, and again, this may be a little off, but I know there's a nonprofit here in Greenbelt that they will pay, or they were going to pay, to give you a free charger, and in exchange, you would put your home on an app that would allow anybody in the entire country to come to Greenbelt and charge their car in your parking space in order to encourage. We don't really have a very strong network of chargers in this country, so it's very difficult if you have an electric vehicle to actually go on a trip because you don't know where you're going to charge your car. So I didn't quite understand what Mr. Salmaron was saying, but isn't our solar electricity cheaper than our Pepco rate right now?
On the rate, yes. The solar energy we're getting from the city's 2 megawatt system is 8 cents a kilowatt hour.
And the Pepco is 13?
Yes,
So we're saving 5 cents a kilowatt hour?
on the 2 megawatt system.
Right, so couldn't we charge people nothing or at that rate
No.
because, excuse me, don't shake your head at me when I didn't finish my thought. It's because we're saving money by using solar electricity. Why wouldn't we be passing that along to people from all over the country that are looking for a place? You know, I think we should be giving it away because I think we should be part of endorsing the infrastructure in this country. Because as Mr. Lipper can probably tell you, it's really hard to go on vacation right now. You have to find a town with a restaurant that has a charging station. And it's becoming easier, and thank God our municipal governments are doing it. But I don't know, you're all laughing at me. I'm being perfectly serious about that. For a while, when we first started, it was totally free. And I don't know when we got into paying, but I don't know why we wouldn't be passing on the savings of solar electricity to people that are using electric vehicles. In fact, if you have solar panels in your house and you have an electric vehicle, it's free. You have a solar-powered car. You've paid for your solar panels. Your car electricity is completely free. Mr. Lippert, I don't know if that's true in your home, if you have enough solar electricity in your home that your EV, oh no, I'm sorry, that was your old home. But if you had an EV, if you had solar in your home, your electric vehicle would be driving free. Thank you.
Ms. Rosenthal, I didn't mean to be dismissive of your comment. When you asked the question, couldn't we just give it away for free? I said no, because it's while the sun is free and those rays are putting electricity into the grid, it's not free to the city. We're paying 8 cents a kilowatt hour for that electricity, so it's not free to us. So we couldn't just give it away. Also, council's interest in the 2 megawatt system was to offset the electricity consumption of our facilities. So I would not be doing my job if I'm redirecting that energy consumption to another purpose other than to deferring the cost of electricity and the power consumption of facilities as directed by council.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, and as an EV owner, I don't think I should be getting it free. I think because I, you know, if I had a gas vehicle, I would be paying for my gasoline, and I would have no Ms. Rosenthal, you don't get to comment again. I'm sorry, but it's appropriate for me to be paying for the electricity that I'm using. It's still going to be less than I would pay for gas,
Like
but it's still
Cracker
appropriate for
Barrel
me to
would
be
give
paying.
it to you for
Ms.
free.
Rosenthal, all due respect.
I know, but if Cracker Barrel would be giving it for
not
free because they'd want
recognized
you
you
to
to
shop
speak,
at Cracker
so-
Barrel, so they would give you free
Yeah, thank
plug-in,
you.
so you would eat
Ms.
dinner
Rosenthal?
there, you know?
Yeah, that's Cracker
Thank
Barrel.
you.
That's not City of Greenbelt.
Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz,
Sorry, can we? Yes.
Councilmember Niesel,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
The motion carries.
That resolution carries. Thank you very much. Item number 14.
13.
I'm sorry. Item number 13, approval of Prince George's County Municipal Association membership dues. Councilmember Pompey requested that this item be included for discussion at the meeting November 17th. It was tabled for further consideration at this meeting. Reallocation of funds within council's budget is necessary to cover this membership expense. So staff is asking for direction on this item. Let me just state my position. At the last PGCMA meeting, a treasurer was named for the organization. It's the mayor of Riverdale Park, Mayor Inyang. It's a nominal amount of funding. I think where this makes a difference is with the standing of PGCMA in relation to MML. We are a municipality within Prince George's County, and to the extent where there are municipalities that have chosen not to pay their dues, it really does weaken Prince George's County's ability to influence the statewide organization when it comes to discussions on various topics. So I think that it's important to do. It's a nominal amount of funding. I think we need to go ahead and do this. I think the best way for council to influence what happens in PGCMA is to actually serve on the board or to serve on a committee. There are openings on committees, and I think that that is the best way for us to proceed. So just to get a motion on the table, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and pay our annual dues for this year for PGCMA. And I'm hoping that there'll be a second, we can
Second.
discuss it. Okay, so discussion, council members, what do you say?
I have not been fully satisfied with the answers we've gotten about how the budget was set up in PGCMA. I still keep asking the question. I'm still not completely satisfied with those answers. However, I do think there is value in the organization. I wish they had listened more when they were planning the budget in terms of structuring it differently. I do appreciate a greater sense of transparency about at least how the dues are calculated, which didn't exist before. I think they're trying very hard. I'm still not completely satisfied, but I agree. I think it is a useful organization to be part of, and I think they're making efforts to get past the difficulties from before. I wish there were better answers, but I'm willing to support paying our dues with the caveat that I think that along with our dues, we should write a letter explaining what, in writing, what we're concerned about, and so we maintain our membership in the organization, because I do think they're trying to make changes. I just have not been completely satisfied with all of the answers.
I'm comfortable with that. Ms. Pope?
Yeah, I think there's value to be a member of the organization, and I think at this point I would say let's. And I opposed before, you know, that we should. I didn't oppose it, but I said let's put a hold on the dues until they get their things sorted out, because it was a big fiasco. I think they're trying. I think it's just going to take a while because it was such a big mess, and it's just going to take a while for them to get reorganized and they're doing that slowly, but they are doing it. So and I would suggest we pay the fee, which is a new fee, which is a reduced fee actually, because they did reevaluate the fee structure as well. So I think at this point we should go ahead and pay the fee, but I think we should send a letter and also stating our expectations or what we'd like to see in the next year to happen in order for us to then decide again, you know, is this really an organization we want to keep being a member at that point? But give them a chance to come up for air and organize, and, you know, and then I think we should support them at this time.
Hey, Councilmember Niesel.
Thank you. I believe really strongly in voting with your dollar. And I want everyone to understand that while this is a very small amount of money financially, it does represent a stake in an organization that Greenbelt is aligning itself with. And so that's what I am more concerned with in this entire process. I agree that I'm slightly encouraged by the increased transparency I've seen. I still have concerns with the overarching organization. I do not have time to join a board right now. I do appreciate that suggestion. Previously, when a member of our council was on the board, they did not feel that their feedback was always accepted in the same way that we have felt. So I agree that we can support the organization in its reinvention by paying dues this time. But I definitely, I agree with Councilmember Pope's recommendation that we have expectations attached to this, so that we can get a little more clarity around what our relationship will be in the future, because I don't want to have this discussion every time.
And so they know also, you know, what is the membership looking for, or, you know, and we are part of the membership. So, yeah.
Other comments from council? Council member.
I don't know. I mean, I echo my fellow council members' concerns with, you know, that we don't really know how this budget was derived, that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I feel like they're putting too much focus on money in general and raising money, and I don't know like why we're raising money as PGCMA. Um, and I also feel like my questions around that are never answered satisfactorily when I ask them. It's like, oh, well, maybe we'll just have extra money and we'll give away scholarships. It's like, that's not really how budgeting works. But um, so I don't know. I don't feel entirely comfortable giving taxpayer dollars to an organization who I don't think is does a good job of managing their money. But if my colleagues truly believe that this is the right thing to do, then I will support that.
Thank you. Councilmember McKinney or Fritz, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think it is important to support organizations that ultimately can support our members. I am very concerned that we do not know where these fees are going to, and while I do appreciate that it is a smaller amount and they have reduced that from what the previous fees were, I still don't have a good understanding of where those fees are going. So my question is, I believe the fees our membership renews, I think over the summer, if I'm not mistaken. I would be more inclined to wait till that time to pay for the fees or pay our membership fee when we actually know where our taxpayer monies are actually going to. It's more of a matter of, I think Ms. Niesel said, putting our mouth where our money is or whatever that may be. I don't think we should be, even if it is a small amount, paying for something that we're not clear about where that money is going.
Thank you. Councilmember, please.
I mean, my inclination, and I definitely agree with points made by everyone, is that I think engagement is important, and we should engage the organization. Just being new to the body and looking at the initial budget, and seeing how much there's revenues from events and from dues, so event ticketing and dues, and projected reserves of $20,000 for organization with no staff or really any overhead besides events that are ticketed. So we're paying for the events, then you're paying also for the membership dues, and then they're also having reserves. That was a red flag to me. So I have deep concerns. I think I will probably defer to the more senior members, which is everyone of the council, because these relationships are new for me. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I definitely understand where the financial concerns are coming from for an organization, once again, that has no staff. But should we, do I want to be part of a municipal association of Prince George's County? Yes, and as council member Pompey said in the last meeting, there's no question if there were no dues that we would participate in this organization. Or even in my opinion, if the dues were just meeting the costs, but what are reserves being used for at this point? Without a strategic plan of what those are going towards, it is hard. You are kind of putting your money into a black box, and we're trying to figure out what's going to happen. So I think definitely, regardless of what we do, we need to reevaluate this in the future. But I think there's definitely, I want to be optimistic, and I want to start off on a optimistic note, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that point of view. So several council members have said that they don't know where the funding would go, but there's a budget, and that budget was put forward by the executive committee and approved by the body. So in regard to the reserve, that has to do with the funding that was previously there for legislative advocacy, which we don't have. It's not going to happen this year, but I believe aspirationally they want to have the funding to do comparable activity, which would be of benefit. We've increased our budget in Greenbelt to provide a buffer so that we do have additional legislative support. So I'll say it again, the best way to influence these decisions, go back and look at the budget, it's there. And I'm not on the PGCMA board, I once was, but the best way to influence the budget that's put forward is to serve on the board or to attend the meetings. So I don't want to go around in circles. We've talked about this a couple of times. We have a comment. Please, Ms. Rosenthal.
Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. I promise to be more well-behaved this time. Just for in the Real Meal, they say, for the people in Zoom land and for the people watching on TV, can we just clarify that there's like all these like alphabet soups? So I think I know the answer, but there's like the NLC, that's the National League of Cities, and that's for the whole country. And then MML, we know that you all go away to MML, and we don't have, and that's the Maryland Municipal League, right? So that's all municipalities in the state of Maryland. Well, I don't even know how many there are. Is that there like 37 municipalities or something? So it's
about
only for
150.
municipal governments.
157, I think, in Maryland.
Right. Well, I think maybe 37 are certified for Sustainable Maryland certified. But in the, my understanding, which I've studied, in the Prince George's County, we have 27 municipalities, and the rest of the county is unincorporated. So Prince George's County Municipal Association is for every municipality in Prince George's County, right? So that's how it differs from MML and NLC. And Ms. Pope, you used to be the chair of the small municipalities or something. You used to have little events here in the theater and stuff like that, and you were the chairperson, right? So
Small cities.
right, small cities, right? So at that time, like you felt more like connected with the organization. So I just want everybody, maybe like, as I said, in Zoom land and on TV, to understand that it's like different circles of national, state, and local. And you're saying that right now, if I understand you, that that organization is not as good as it used to be, like perhaps the Maryland Municipal League, like Jay Davis used to always be on their legislative team and actually relied exclusively on their recommendations for legislation. But so I'm not following exactly. You're all saying that you don't feel that the municipal PGCMA is as effective as it used to be, or you don't know what they're using the money for? Is that what this discussion's all about?
Well, no, this discussion is all about the Prince George's County Municipal Association, which is a chapter of the statewide organization. So the chapter is composed of the 27 municipalities within Prince George's County. There was an issue, I guess it happened about 2.5 years ago now. 2 years ago?
Much less than that, like last year.
Last year.
Last year.
It came to light last year, but the problem actually
Problem may predated that. That's
predated
true.
that.
But it came
So,
home.
and I don't want to minimize that. So this question about the budget and about legislative advocacy, the Municipal Association hired an advocate or a lobbyist, I suppose, to actually represent the 27 municipalities, particularly on the county level. So there was, that changed a year and a half ago. And so this discussion about the budget and the reserves, to some extent, and why Prince George's County Municipal Association is trying to have money available from the reserves, in my opinion, and I'm not on the board, my opinion, it has to do with the legislative advocacy piece, particularly on the county level. So I think we should just go ahead and take a vote. It would take a majority to do this. I suppose someone could abstain if they really have strong feelings, but I've heard 3 or 4 council members state that they want to work on a letter or some correspondence, which I'm okay with. I just think we need to go ahead and do this. It would be helpful and supportive of the other municipalities, and it will influence the effectiveness of the local chapter representing Prince George's County and in the way that they are able to interact with the larger statewide organization. Yes, council member.
Could we amend the motion just to include the inclusion of a letter?
Sure.
So that, and if we add that, I would be comfortable voting on it.
I would consider that a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I would too. I would accept that.
So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
And- Okay, thank you. So, and are there a couple of council members that are willing to work on drafting something up? A letter? Volunteers?
I can work on something.
Okay,
And I'll ask, I know Ms. Pompey has some concerns as well. I'll consult with you.
excellent. Okay, let's now move on to item number 14, which is a discussion regarding cell phone service issues and scheduling a work session in January 2026. In consideration of the petition and requests from our residents, council discussed the ongoing cell phone service issues, particularly in the northern side of town and also on the eastern side of town, and consider scheduling a work session in January to review these concerns in greater detail. In an agenda-setting meeting today with Mayor Pro Tem and the city manager, we talked about scheduling this for the 5th of January and whether or not we'd be prepared to do so. I think in the request, the written request from our residents, there was a specific request for service map overlays and some other information. I think we can pull that together for the 5th as well. So when we get to the meeting section, I'm going to make a motion that we actually schedule that work session for the 5th of January. Also, the idea of inviting someone from Verizon, the service question has revolved really around Verizon service. There are other providers, and I won't mention names, but there's several other providers that do have cell phone service and internet service, which seems to cover the entire city pretty well. Perhaps not inside of some of our buildings, but so that's my proposal. This is a discussion item. So are there any other thoughts that need to be shared on this item number 14? Yeah, council member.
Yeah, thank you. I asked that this be added to the agenda because there was considerable citizen comment on this during our last meeting. And, I think it's important that residents hear from us, hear from the council, that we recognize that this is a problem and that we are dedicated to moving forward in a way that solves the problem, and that we're going to empower the city manager to do everything he can to see how we can bring more providers and better service here to the city. So I just feel like it's important that residents know that this is something that we are working on, and then we do support more providers, we do support better service, and we are hoping to move in that direction.
Certainly support better service. Yeah, and more providers if they're there. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I think if there's a way for staff to gather, I know that we've had people approach us about small cell towers that didn't go anywhere after that. So I don't know if there's a way to gather information about what we can do proactively related to that, if that's a direction we choose to go, either the small cell towers or the bigger towers, although it seems like the trend now is for the small cells, and we had people approach us about that and just never followed up. So I don't know if there's maybe we can find some examples of other municipalities I don't know if it needs to be incentives or just, seeking out and approaching other folks. I think there's some history of previous councils, well, previous to most of us, actually actively discouraging the larger towers. And I think that's a factor definitely for some things. I spoke to, when I was at the National League of Cities, I took the opportunity, there was someone who was an employee of AT&T, but it was with the FirstNet, so it wasn't really his responsibility for this, but I chatted with him a little bit, and I think some of his comments were that, yeah, if there's that history of sort of discouraging the large towers, they have a pretty long time frame for the big towers. They would need something fairly concrete from a council supporting that, because it can be, I think some of the big towers can be a couple of years before they get put in. So I think, I think that's something to think about. And he was supposed to connect me with the appropriate person to talk about this, and he didn't, and I need to dig out his card and tell him, hey, you forgot to do that. but I think we need to think about what are our options going forward, and what can we do proactively in terms of pursuing options for better service. So if there, yeah, I don't know if maybe Mr. Salmarone, if there's, I don't know if you've been other municipalities in Prince George's County, if they've done anything to reach out to these, if you can talk to the other city managers and ask them if they've done anything. You don't have to answer now. I'm just saying like that would be useful information to have.
I can answer some of that now.
Okay.
Oh, you would.
No,
But some of the other municipalities in New Carlton, the field, the soccer fields where actually our Greenbelt Soccer Alliance practice, they didn't oppose radios and a tower going on to the lighting poles, and so there's good coverage there, and it's on a sports field. They didn't oppose that, so that was pretty easy to move forward, and they also collect revenue from it. So I think that the experience of other municipalities when they've been approached about opportunities to lease space, whether on land or on a building for towers, others have had a different. They have been more welcoming to those types of partnerships.
Hey, I just want to clarify something. So when this proposal for a cell phone tower at Roosevelt High School on the school grounds came forward, it was a slightly different time. With the discussions around 5G towers, it wasn't a matter of council or the administration following up. It was a matter of the vendor, Milestone, I believe their name, actually pursuing the matter. They have to file paperwork, and they never really went ahead with a proposal to do something in Greenbelt with small cell towers. So I just want to make that clear. Yeah. Ms. Rosenthal, you had a comment, because I don't see any other comments or questions from council members.
Laura Rosenthal, still at 2 Court Garden Way. If you're going to come to like a 3-hour city council meeting, you might as well like comment on various items. But this is sort of like a public service announcement about why people should come on January 5th to participate in this discussion. Because actually, I think there will be people that will come out on both sides. I don't know if anymore, but there will be the people that say we have really bad coverage here. We need to find better providers, like especially around the lake. You can't get any cell phone coverage. But there should be other people saying we should not be allowing, cell phone towers on schools. It's like it's a corporate entity trying to, use a school. There's other people that will say the microwave signals. I'm not saying I believe that, but the microwave signals from the cell phone towers are dangerous. There are other people that will say one of the companies wanted to put little tiny cell phone towers every 5 feet on everybody's street. So on Garden Way, every 5 feet, there would have been a thing so I could get 5G coverage. So there are people, and yes, soccer fields, it's still, if you believe in this, the microwave signals from the cell phone towers. So, maybe this is more like a thing of the past, but this could be a really exciting discussion on January 5th. Everybody should come out and weigh in whether or not you actually want more cell tower coverage. They're also very ugly. They try and disguise them as pine trees, but they don't do a very good job of it. So, I think it should be a serious discussion. And yes, Ms. Pompey, I'm sure a lot of people, when you were canvassing, wanted cell phone towers, but I'm sure some of us don't. I never owned a cell phone until 2 years ago because I hate them. I think they're disgusting, and they are known to cause brain cancer or breast cancer if you hold them up to your head. So, thank you.
We can have a lively discussion on the 5th. I think we should schedule this. And I just think the technology has changed quite a bit. Council listens and is responsive to the public. The technology and the alternatives have changed around a bit since we last talked about this. And certainly, for some people that have service with one provider whose first initial starts with a V, they don't have good, you look at the service map and they don't cover some sections of Greenbelt, including Greenbelt East, the area that's east of the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. Ms. Pope.
Yeah, in the meantime, technology has changed so much, so you probably don't need a whole tower, right? Probably need something this big on some pole. But also, we all have 5G. The new phones all come with 5G, and my provider, T-Mobile, I have, and I go around the lake and all over the place. I have really great reception. I don't have any problem. So there are other providers out there who provide better service, right? So, but nevertheless, we should have a discussion about it.
Yeah, and that's what the residents, one of the specific requests was they wanted service maps or just kind of seeing, and they wanted us to rank the providers. I don't know if we can rank them exactly, but certainly we can provide some additional information on the 5th, which gives us 3 or 4 weeks to provide that. So let's go ahead, if there's no objection, I'd like to go ahead and schedule that for the 5th. So let's, moving on, we've got the traffic calming study for Greenbelt Center City is item number 16. And as a part of the city's American Rescue Plan Act funding, we set aside funding for pedestrian bicycle improvements. The city contracted with traffic engineer consultant Greenman Pedersen Incorporated, GPI, to prepare a traffic calming study for roadways within the center of Greenbelt. After soliciting feedback on the draft and various public meetings and council work sessions, staff is presenting a final draft and recommendations for the city council to accept and to consider moving forward with. And our planner, Jamie Fearer, is here. Jamie, thank you for sticking it out to this point in the meeting.
Past my bedtime.
But you know, mine too, frankly. But you know, we've been working on this for a while, and it is great to actually see this come to fruition. So you've got a presentation, and APB has actually looked at the proposal as well and had some recommendations. So why don't you go ahead and dive right in?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So we, this actually, the genesis of this study, just to go back a little bit, started back in 2021 with an APB report that was requesting a traffic study for Lakeside Drive. And from that opportunity, we had from the opportunity, particularly with ARPA funding and our focus on implementing parts of the Ped Bike Master Plan, as well as other traffic calming measures, we had the opportunity to expand the scope. That person was speeding, whoever just drove by. To expand the scope to include additional roadways in Greenbelt Center City. So I will go through this briefly. The project team, myself, Director Ruby, as the project managers, I was the primary project manager, and GPI was our consultant. And so we expanded the scope to include these roadways, 5 roadways within Greenbelt Center City, not all of Greenbelt Center City. We could have certainly spent more money to do that, but it does get pricey. So we looked at Ridge Road from Lassner Lane to Westway, Lakeside Drive from Lake Crest Drive to Crescent Road, Lassner Lane from Ridge Road to Crescent Road, Green Hill Road from Crescent Road to Research Road, and Hillside from Crescent Road to Research Road, or all of Green Hill and all of Hillside are those last 2. Next slide, please. So here is the timeline. A number of you have been involved since the beginning. We started with data collection, I want to say in the fall of 2023, and we actually went through 2 project managers at GPI. We've been working on this so long. So we then had a draft report that was prepared for internal staff review before we took it to the advisory planning board back a little over a year ago in October of 2024. And so in pretty quick succession, we had 3 meetings. We had an advisory planning board meeting with the draft. We had a community/public meeting where we had boards of each of the 22 recommendations up, where people could put Post-it notes, provide feedback to us, send us email feedback. And actually, the last few pages of the 400-page study are all the comments that we received on it and the responses to it, but you have to get a magnifying glass out to read them the way they're formatted. And then we brought it to a city council work session. So there weren't really edits made between October of 2024 and November of 2024, but we gathered all that feedback then over the fall and winter to work on a more final draft, which has gone through a few iterations since then. And most recently took the final draft to APB for their recommendation to council on October 1st. And so you do have APB's report as well in your packets. I have made a few minor typographic edits, but what you have is pretty much what APB saw in your packets. And really what you need to focus on if you want to dig into it are the first approximately 70 pages. That's where the sort of bulk of it is. The rest is appendices that talk about Metrobus tables. We also went through a complete reworking of our transit system while we were going through this. So there were old timetables in there. All of the speed data that was speed and volume data that was gathered is in the appendices and more. So with that, next slide, please. Just to quickly go over with these two slides why we were doing this, what traffic calming is. Different people might call it different things, but we're really looking at controlling speeds and volumes along these roadway segments. We had heard complaints, but we needed to get quantifiable data to look at in order to see what those speeds and volumes were. And then ultimately look at different traffic calming measures that can consist of horizontal and vertical deflection in the lingo of the engineers. So horizontal deflection, vertical deflection would be a speed hump. You would be creating a vertical challenge for the driver to go over that would hopefully slow them down. The horizontal things are different. We would look at lane narrowing potentially, things along the roadside, such as bulb outs and other features that use self-enforcing physical or perception means to produce the desired effects, which in this case were slower speeds for the most part, and safer places to cross. For bike infrastructure, I will say there wasn't a lot that we could do without removing street parking, a significant amount of street parking. There is some street parking reduction proposed in this study to create safety, particularly at crossings. But without removing a significant amount of street parking, we weren't able to establish new bike lanes, for instance. But we do mention the installation of sharrows potentially on Ridge Road. That is also a current recommendation of the pedestrian and bicycle master plan as well. So that would just be bringing that recommendation forward. Next slide, please. So again, the goal is to reduce automobile speeds or volumes, maybe both, depending. This graphic on the side, there's another graphic in the actual study, is just a way to visualize that the faster a car is driving, if a person is in a collision, if a pedestrian in particular or bicyclist is hit by a driver, as the speed goes up, you're more likely to have increased serious injuries or fatalities. And so reducing those speeds, particularly on residential roadways, which is primarily what we were studying, is really important for safety. Next slide, please. So the process, again, we identified the project limits. I'll show a map of that in just a second. Gathered the existing data. We sent them, the consulting team, other plans, including the bike master plan, so they could see what overlapping suggestions and recommendations we had on these roadways, what we were doing with the ARPA Ped Bike funding. So some things that are actually in the study either were implemented as a part of the ARPA Ped Bike funding already in one form, but maybe not a matching form. But there are some things in here that have been implemented, some things that come from prior studies that we hadn't been able to fold into any other study, but fit into here. Determined metrics, I can go briefly over that. I think that's actually on another slide. So we actually have a priority for each of the recommendations throughout the project, whether the priority is low, medium, or high, to help us focus on limited funds, where we might want to focus in phases for these improvements. And we also have short and long-term recommendations, and I can explain that a little bit with one of our examples. There's an evaluation of traffic calming strategies in the study, particularly in the early part. So it talks about different countermeasures that could be used but weren't used and why, different countermeasures that we might still consider but maybe weren't specifically addressed in this study, and then the measures that were used throughout the study. So I think it gives a good overview, particularly for people who don't look at this stuff every day, about why. I don't think we get into the difference between a speed hump and a bump. That's another conversation. And we
Speed
get asked,
humps, bumps, and tables.
and tables.
Tables.
And raised crosswalks, which is actually just a speed table with a crosswalk on the top.
There you go.
So it doesn't get into that, but it does talk about why we might do lane narrowing versus something else, where we might use raised crosswalks, where we might have a bulb out at a corner or that curb extension, and some of the different terminology. So it does get into that. And then proposes the recommendations. Next slide, please. So here's a map of the project limits. What's highlighted in blue are those segments that I mentioned before, those 5 segments. It may look like 4, again, because Green Hill and Hillside connect at the top at Research Road. And so these are the segments that we looked at. Next slide, please. I think I have 2 duplicate slides after this. Nope, not after this one. Yeah, leave this one here. So this is also in the report. This is highlighting, and I probably would have reversed the order of this slide with the next one, but this is just highlighting where the 22 different proposed project sections are. And then each of these has its own breakout with bullets of the short and long-term recommendations, what the proposed cost would be for those recommendations to implement them, and then a visual image of them. It's important to note this is conceptual. This plan does not get into actual engineering. So the conceptual plans would almost all, there are some I think we could implement, particularly in their short-term forms without consulting with engineers, but would require more funding to do an engineering consultation to get engineered drawings, particularly any that are actual capital improvements. So many of the short-term improvements would be paint, flexible bollards, and signage. Many of the long-term improvements would then transition those projects into actual poured concrete, potentially more turf, sidewalks, whatever it is. And so that would require engineering consultation, and the estimates aren't able to take into account stormwater impacts, and so that may change it. But they did give the estimates a 40% contingency, which is pretty generous. So I hope that it lasts us for a couple of years when we're looking at the cost proposals. Next slide. I have two of this slide erroneously, but this is just, and again, it's in the report showing what the average traffic volumes, daily traffic volumes were, as well as the 85th percentile speed, which is the speed at which 85% of drivers would hit. What is the speed at which, well, hold on, let me get this right. The 85th percentile speed that engineers use means that, yeah, I think up to 85% of the drivers went up to that speed. And so some would argue that we should look at a 90 or 95th percentile. It creates a different number. Some would argue that we don't use the 85th at all, but the consultant that we work with does use the 85th percentile. And so we did note some corridors where there weren't significant speed. There were not outliers, or there were outliers in all of them actually, but there weren't significant speeding. So I see areas where we have folks, the 85% of the drivers are driving at 25 miles per hour, which is the posted speed limit. And we have other places where we are hitting 33, which is a concern, is over 5 over 5 miles per hour over the speed limit.
Hey, with the monitoring, so that was done with those boxes, so 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or was it only during particular
No,
hours?
they just do it for about 48 to 72 hours during the week. It is done with the tubes that
Yeah,
we
that's what I
have,
meant,
the
yeah.
city actually has one, and I deploy that from time to time. For small, it was way easier to get these folks to deploy them. This was a subcontractor.
Right.
Because that's what they do. So they could do it very quickly and not fight with the key or the program like I do when I'm trying to set up the box that we have.
Okay.
And they did them all at about the same time. And we're able to get during school hours. And these actually will note how many axles each vehicle had as well. So they knew when it was a bus going over it, or we presume it's a bus based on the axles and the weight, as well as the speed of the vehicle. So we could note where there was heavier, literally heavier vehicular traffic on some of the roads, and all that's in the documentation in the middle. You can skip the next slide because it's a repeat. So again, the metrics that were used were the vehicle volumes on the roadways, the vehicle speeds, and collision data. The collision data we struggled a bit with, and there are some gaps in the collision data that we had, but we were able to use that. And as APB points out in their memo, that some of that collision data was from the peak of the pandemic, and traffic volumes were different. Although I will say collisions actually were higher during the pandemic, even though volumes were lower nationally, and speeds were up nationally during the pandemic because the roads were clearer and people were driving faster. And so each project was given a point assignment. You don't see the points necessarily, but you do see that low, medium, or high priority for each location, and that's where that comes from. Next slide. So some of the traffic calming strategies that we used are speed humps, which are not as bumpy as bumps. And typically you will see a speed bump in a parking lot. So if you go over to Greenway Center and you go over and they're very vertical, that's a speed bump versus a hump, which is what we have in different areas around the city. Curb bump outs, where we might extend the curb so that you are making more of a 90-degree turn versus a 45-degree turn, to slow down traffic turning, but also to narrow the width that a pedestrian needs to cross the roadway. Raised medians, street narrowing, typically the narrower the lane to a certain degree, the slower driving will be incrementally, I will say. But if you have a highway width lane, people will drive like it's a highway. Yes.
You know, in DC and other places, you see so many bollards being used for traffic calm, but I don't see them listed as a tool to assist
They,
in traffic calming.
in here, well, yeah, they are used as one of the delineators to make the curb bump out as a
Okay.
short-term project versus a long-term. So in a short-term project, you would use paint and the flex posts, perhaps not as significant as the quick curb that we got out on Southway, but that was SHA.
Right.
Um,
Councilmember.
I was just going to finish that thought real quick. But it is a traffic calming. It's a tool to create the bump out. So the bump out is the actual countermeasure.
Councilmember.
I just wanted to comment on, there's a very beautifully engineered piece of roadway. I think it's on Spring Hill Drive, right in front of the elementary school, where you've got it narrows and you also have the raised median. And I mean, it's like every time I drive through there, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a utopia.
So that was
Like,
actually a
it's-
safe routes to school improvement project that we
Love
had
that.
back in around 2012 or
It's just
13.
such a beautifully engineered roadway, crosswalk, and it's like, I feel safe driving through it. I feel like children are safe walking through it, and every time I go through it, I'm like, I just want more of that. It's really
Councilmember
nice.
Poe.
Yeah, so that's true, but the raised crosswalk we put in, I want to say 2 years ago after I asked for it. Because
Yes, the raised
we didn't put them in originally, so we do have one, and I may put my, well, the idea for the other crosswalk maybe as well, so we can get a raised crosswalk there as well, but they're very helpful.
Yes, the
definitely.
raised crosswalks, I would say 15 years ago weren't as popular of a countermeasure when that project was first being planned. So there are still opportunities to grow there, but yes, but where the crosswalks were placed and having that narrowing with the median, duly
beautiful.
noted. I want to correct what I said before about the 85th really quick. So the 85th percentile, those speeds that you saw, is a speed at or below which 85% of the drivers are driving. So where you see 25, 85% of the drivers that were collected were driving 25 miles an hour or below that. Where we see 31, 32, 33, that means 85% of the drivers were driving at that speed or below it. And that's where it becomes concerning. The reason some folks like to point out the 95th is that it is looking at almost the totality of drivers and is collecting more data from some of the outliers.
Okay.
Next slide. I'm almost done, I promise. So this is just an example of one of the 22 projects. So you can kind of read it. I don't have the language there, but again, they're broken out into short and long-term recommendations with the cost breakdown, the proposed cost breakdown. And these are the conceptual drawings. They don't get much more detailed than this, but may show some crosswalk realignment, may show some lane narrowing, some restriping, moving stop bars. The roadway width reduction, though it is in green, doesn't mean that it's green paint or that it's grass. It's just that is the color that they chose. Depending on how the roadway might be reduced, it could be more sidewalk, it could be more grass. It could be paint and those flex posts to start. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just so gratifying to see this information gathered tangibly and structured into a matrix of short-term, long-term, and in particular, just taking a look at the ones that have the greatest fiscal impact, because money is tight right now. One question that I have is just in terms of, so we've got these recommendations here, but the focus is exclusively on the center part of Greenbelt. So I just want to make sure that things like the green paint, and there are other parts of the city that have been waiting a very, very long time for various types of improvement. And although we've got this information, I hope that it doesn't take priority over the rest of the city. It really shouldn't necessarily.
We've been working on over close to $300,000 worth of improvements across the city. And a great deal of those actually went into Greenbelt East along Hanover Parkway recently. And we will be continuing to work on those as the weather clears when spring opens up, and we'll be putting down more thermoplastic that we've already got.
It's fantastic. Let me just quickly make a motion to accept the report, and if I can get a second just to move things along, then we
Second.
can have a discussion. Okay. Thank you. Let's go ahead and let's see who's next. Councilmember.
Sure. I'd love at some point to schedule maybe a fuller work session to dig in, because there's a lot here. But I did have one specific question, more how it pertains just to the overall report on page 38. It talks about removing the existing traffic signal on the southbound approach and replacing it with RRFBs, which are reticular rapid flashing beacons. Are you familiar with that? It's around the 21 corridor bridge. Are you familiar with
It's
that?
at Greenridge House.
At Greenridge House, yeah. Is there more context? Are other traffic signals removed across the city in the plan, or proposed removal in the city as well? And is there a reason why those RRFBs are considered preferable to the traffic signal that exists now?
Certainly. The city actually only has 2 traffic signals. That's one of them.
So 50% reduction right there.
It's a 50% reduction. The rest of the traffic signals are all NSHA owned right of way. The other is on Hanover at Oreglen. NSHA actually the city and SHA maintain that one. The traffic signal at Green Ridge, to the best that I can tell, was installed at a point where it is serving the purpose of a very enhanced pedestrian signal. It does not go red unless somebody presses the button. It does not go red for exiting cars. It is not on any kind of timer or loop. And so it actually is out of compliance with federal guidelines for how traffic signals should work. And it would be better, the better option would be something like a rectangular rapid flash beacon that is a proven countermeasure, will take some adjustment, but also is something that would be up to code, would be ADA accessible. We've had trouble replacing parts on the buttons on that one, and would potentially be a lower maintenance issue for folks. And it wouldn't necessarily fully stop traffic for a full signal if folks weren't crossing. So once somebody crosses, vehicular traffic could continue, or if another person needed to cross, they could press the button again. But it is we've just installed 2 RRFBs, one on Hanover and one on Cherrywood. And then we've also installed a different version that we're kind of trying out, which is where the whole sign flashes, but it's not a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. But for here, we would want to put in a whole rectangular rapid flashing beacon and enhance the bus stop.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Niesel.
Pardon me. I'm going to ask you a really broad question, and you're going to have to be like, well, not exactly. It sounds as though we can effect a certain number of these changes as long as we are not doing the actual construction. So we can do things like the bollards and the paint without further engineering studies, or would we? I'm just trying to understand how close we are to any of these things
Not exactly.
happening.
Yes, some of them. So some of them, I think that we can, between our expertise in planning and public works expertise in putting up other traffic control devices, I think that we could. Some, I would say we have to take into account if it's a transit route. So we would need to be careful about the turning radius on transit routes. So some we can. You'll notice that we have installed some mid-block crossings as a part of our ARPA projects. We did not get additional engineering for those, and we were able to do that. So it kind of depends on the thing, but yes, certainly some of them we can.
Let's see, we've got Mr. Hartman.
Michael Hartman, 2 Garden Way. Well, there you go. In the study, I'm curious about the study itself. It's quite extensive, but wondering what the considerations were for people with disabilities, especially people with mobility disabilities, and who use wheelchairs or other mobility, who sometimes have to travel on a roadway when there's no sidewalk or there's no contiguous sidewalk. And I'm wondering if any focus was on those situations. Also, the fact that raised crosswalks are sometimes a challenge for people with mobility impairments, also people who are blind, staying within the confines of the sidewalk. And I'm wondering what considerations were given for that. And also in the same vein, when you have realignment of sidewalks, what effect are there on the mobility for people with disabilities to be able to navigate independently through those situations? And so curious about any considerations that were given to how these potential changes or challenges align with the needs of people with disabilities. Thank you.
So to your question about a realignment, a number of the realignments are taking crosswalks that are at diagonals and making them perpendicular to the roadway, which actually makes the crossing more accessible. When folks aren't expecting a diagonal or can't see a diagonal, it's hard to make that connection. Not all of them could be improved that way. We do have a lot of winding roads in the city. We did add some sidewalk segments where there were some missing. That is an ongoing conversation, particularly in Center City, between focusing on sidewalks along the roadway versus focusing on the inner walkway system. But there are definitely some additional sidewalk connections that are made in here. And we could continue to look at others as we dig into the projects and go for more formal engineering. For the raised crosswalk, typically raised crosswalk specs are such that they're wide enough that people will not lose track of them. And that's not my spec. That is a spec that is up to compliance with ADA and with the PRO-WAG, which has been adopted as well finally. And so we would try to follow those specs. There are two different ways that a raised crosswalk can be built. The way we've been doing it in the city is a way where we can avoid the most issues or challenges with stormwater. And so you come down off of the ramp, there's still space for the stormwater to flow, and then you go up to the raised crosswalk. It's not wrong, that's one way to do it, but a potentially more accessible way to do it is that you never have to leave the sidewalk. You actually would not have a curb ramp. You would still have detectable warnings so that you know you're entering into a crosswalk, but the crosswalk is level with the sidewalk all the way across. That's what's actually proposed in here, and there are some for instance, at Greenbelt Elementary, it proposes a raised crosswalk where there already is one, and what they mean is replacing it with one that is flush and level with the sidewalk in order to make that improvement. But those are significantly pricier and will require us to do a little bit more engineering. But when it's time, when the life of that crosswalk has come to its end, as all pavement does eventually, then we would want to look at potentially building it that way, if possible. And again, all the final engineering would absolutely take all of those things into account and accessibility into account.
Well, thank you. Ms. Rosenthal?
Hi, Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. Thank you, Ms. Fuhrer, for such an excellent presentation. I really appreciate the fact that you had a PowerPoint and everything, because not all of us would have read the packet or whatever, all 500 pages. So it was great, and this is the first I'm really understanding about the study and the recommendations, and that this is about accepting both the short and the long-term recommendations. It's great that it was paid for by ARPA. So I guess my only question is, if the city accepts the recommendation, does that include a budget with it, or is that like a whole other discussion about how much it's going to cost to do this? Did either the consultants figure that out, or did your office, or is this just about accepting this conceptually, and then later on the city council will have to figure out how to pay for it?
Yes, it's about, it's conceptual. So council, the city manager and the city administration would put forward some suggestions and ideas, and council would probably fund them as best we could.
Yes, in fact, today, in today's agenda planning meeting, the mayor was very eager to have an unfunded capital needs work session. And the mayor was very eager to schedule a unfunded capital needs work session. So he's eager to fund projects.
Yeah.
No, so your question was, is accepting the recommendation include funding? And many of these projects, as Ms. Freer mentioned, there are some projects that lack engineering. They will need engineering and significant capital costs. So that's funding that hasn't been estimated. We know that there are capital needs that need to be made to improve the safety. And so the mayor jumped into that question. And earlier today, we were talking about capital projects. And this was a poor attempt to make a joke how eager the mayor was to talk about capital expenditures.
And I am, yeah. No. I mean, there's so many important projects that we need to take on, but there's only so much funding. So periodically, it's important for council to work with the city manager to prioritize what's coming up next, what's short term and what's longer term. We haven't had that discussion in a while. I think we should go ahead and take the vote, but go ahead.
Yeah, just thinking about conveying this information to our residents, and I don't know, I mean, it's even if you take out all of the extra, it's not extra, all of the appendices and all of the data and stuff, it's still fairly long. I don't know if it's feasible. I'm thinking, like, looking at some of those graphics, it would be lovely if we could put together like an ArcGIS map that had each of these locations, and then you clicked them and popped up with the priority and maybe color-coded by priority. I understand that will have to be fit in with other things. I'll leave that to you and Ms. Ruby and Mr. Salmarone. But I think in terms of being able to communicate this to residents, having a more interactive way for people, because we've had so many questions about some of these things, be able to direct people and where they can just click on 8A that's on Hillside Road, and then it pops up with what the recommendations and what the priority is. Although the other thing I noticed scrolling through here, and I hadn't noticed this the first time I looked through it, looks like all of our priorities are high or medium. So we don't actually have anything on here that's a low priority, which means that there's not as much differentiation in between some of these locations. So I don't know if there's a way to think through a little more granular prioritization than just high and medium, just for the purposes of looking at funding and which things we want to put forward first. Yeah, because since nothing seems to be a low priority of scrolling through all of the locations.
Yeah, I like the GIS. That's a pretty cool idea. With the prioritization, if we accept this, when we accept it, we are supporting the implementation of short and long-term recommendations, but we still will have the opportunity to further prioritize just based on the availability of funding.
I just think it would be helpful to have, there's not as much differentiation when there's only higher, medium, and not low. That doesn't, like that. I mean, obviously you start with the high, but then which of the medium do you start with? So if you have thoughts about which ones maybe, maybe you didn't want to call anything low priority, but maybe high, medium, and medium low or something.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, that was based on the metrics that the consultant used. Staff actually did not prioritize those.
Okay.
That was based on the collisions, the volumes, and
I see. Okay.
yeah, the metric and the speeds.
So it was based on a rubric, so there weren't any actual low priorities based on that.
I
then.
thought there were originally, but now that you mention it,
I just scrolled
yeah.
through because I hadn't noticed that until I was looking at it again
I
just
guess
now.
we were looking at the right roads. at
Yeah,
least.
it seems like it. It was places where these things were needed, clearly.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so that's accepting and supporting the implementation of short and long-term recommendation. Ms. Fear, thank you so much for all your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Hey, item number 17 is a discussion of Maryland's $150 EV charge tax and potential city response. So beginning January 1st, all public charging stations in Maryland that accept payment required to register with the state's Weights and Measures program. Each charging port will be subject to a $150 annual fee. This item has been added to the agenda for discussion, and I have a suggestion. I'd like to actually move this, that we make this a legislative priority, that we refer this question to our legislative contractor to suggest the best course of action to oppose or to exempt public sector entities. So that would be my motion. Yeah, Mr. Summerall.
May I make a friendly suggestion, Mayor, that the fee, that if there is to be a fee assessed on chargers, should be the same as for gas pumps, which is $20 a port.
Suppose that makes sense.
Oh, are you amending your?
Sure. I just want to see what our legislative contractors have to say. They can tell us, on the state level, which committee to try and appeal to. And, I think, the Municipal Association, this is something that affects the entire state as well. So I'll make that a motion. Anybody want to second it? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
I think.
I'm sorry,
Ms. Liesel had-
Ms. Niesel, please.
About that. So, for example, the pump that we have at the Public Works facility, we pay a $20 tax on that, even though we're a municipality?
No, we don't, with that, so that doesn't have a payment system attached to it, so.
Right, okay.
So it's anything that's to the public facing with a payment system on it.
Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's any example of a municipality being taxed on a gas pump, because to me, it seems like municipalities should be exempt. I would agree with that, but I just wanted to see if there was a precedent.
Yeah, and I spoke with Mr. Deloche about finding a way becoming exempt from paying the fuel tax. We do pay the fuel tax. So we do pay that fuel tax at the public works station. This is a tax on a pump to deliver gas to the public.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I think some of the broader context of this and some of the concern about it is that this is an annual fee that might make it prohibitively expensive for people to put in, especially the level 2 chargers, because something like a high volume fast charger is going to generate more revenue. They can also charge more for it, so they can cover this fee on an annual basis. Whereas I think the concern is, when we were talking earlier about the costs of covering our costs for our level 2 chargers out here, and also then places like shopping centers or other places, there is much less incentive for them to install this if they're going to have to pay this fee every year, and it's going to be harder for them to break even. Now, maybe as energy costs go up, it'll be it might get easier, which is, but that's sort of the context, and because it is so much higher than the gas pumps. So I think that's just for a little bit of the bigger context of that's why it's a problem, is not that there shouldn't necessarily be some fee, as Mr. Salmarone suggests, maybe the equivalent to gas pumps. It's just you don't want to discourage people from putting in more chargers. And it could apply, I mean, I guess, for example, if we weren't charging for anything for it, I guess maybe we wouldn't be subject to it, but we do need to cover our costs. Right. And I think the other thing I was just going to comment is that Mayor Jordan and Councilmember Pompey and I were down at the Metro Washington Council of Governments awards, meeting and awards, and one of the awardees, the honor was Antoine Thompson, who is the CEO of the Greater Washington Green Cities.
Executive Director.
The Executive Director of Greater Washington Green Cities Coalition. So we took the opportunity to ask him, hey, we've got this, we're talking about this on Monday. What are your suggestions for things? And so the things that he suggested, including as part of our advocacy, is not having more taxes on EVs, and especially not ones that are differential that are so much more than for other vehicles or other fuel sources. Also advocating for increasing the rebate, because I think the rebate for the state has been already well oversubscribed for rebates for people purchasing. And then also he suggested about advocating for more work with the public sector to increase public charging, which, we are doing, I think, a pretty decent job in the city of Greenbelt, but just wanted to make those 3 points as things that he suggested, that if we're going to start advocating for some of these things, those are good things to have on our list. So just wanted to add that.
We can, in working with our legislative contractor, we can kind of put those things forward as important considerations, strategies. Ms. Rosenthal?
You know, climate change is near and dear to my heart. Just a clarification, has anybody in Greenbelt done like an inventory of how many charging stations belong to the city and how many belong to private businesses? And as part of that, am I right, Mr. Salmaran, that our latest charging stations were part of some kind of a grant from Pepco or something, like they paid for some of the charging stations, so we got them for free? Is that true?
Yes and no. They are Pepco-owned stations at Shrum Hill and Spring Hill Lake, but they are not owned by the city. They're owned by Pepco, and they were part of a requirement by the Public Utilities Commission to install EV charging stations.
So they collect the fees, you don't?
Switch collects the fees. Pepco has outsourced the operation and maintenance of the EV charging stations to Switch. They did that in the second half of this year. It used to be Shell was the operator of the charging station.
But like they're keeping the money, right?
According to the filing by Pepco is covering the cost of the supply and the maintenance of those EV charging stations. The operator is Switch.
Right, because I mean, I was going to kind of make a joke because I thought that they had actually given the city the charging stations, and then it would have been great as one of the concessions was that you'd ask them to pay the $150 fee the first year, so it wouldn't cost you anything. But okay, so the charging stations that the city owns, you have purchased them yourself, right? There wasn't any grant money or anything paying for any of the ones that are owned by the city?
We own several throughout the city that some of them are fleet charging systems. So we have 3 at Public Works, which are owned by us, and they're exclusively for fleet vehicles. We have one at the police station, which is a dual port, and that's also exclusively for fleet vehicles, and that's for our parking enforcement. And then the new addition are the 2 dual ports that we put here at the municipal building. All of these stations have been in one way or the other subsidized by grants. So for the 2 here, we are applying for the Pepco rebate program because we participated in the fleet readiness program with Pepco and ICF, who Mr. Lipper used to work for.
Right.
So we participated in that fleet management program. So we're getting a rebate
That's great.
for one of those stations through that program. The other station, we are getting it qualified under the Maryland Energy Administration for fleet vehicles, but we have to justify the primary use of that one station is going to be for municipal vehicles, which here in the municipal building, we have the MAC-E, which is the city administration vehicle, and we're claiming that to be the primary use
Right.
of that one station.
So it's back to the main question then. So is there like a inventory or a list of public EV charging stations owned by the municipality, or another list of public charging stations inside 20770 that private businesses have put in?
I can fill you in on where most of them are, but let's do it another
No,
time, because
I
I
didn't-
know where most of them are.
I didn't
and-
ask for
but
where they
they're- and
were,
they're on
Ms.
Google
Weaver.
Maps. They're on Google Maps. That's the easiest way to find them.
Right, but the city doesn't like you maintain a list of all the businesses in Greenbelt for the Greenbelt Business Directory, but you don't maintain a list of EV charging station. It was just a
We
question.
don't need
not
to
a
because it's
criticism.
always on Google Maps. We don't need to do that because somebody can Google EV charger and find all the ones nearby.
Yeah, the EV charging folks, many of them have multiple tools to track the EV charging stations. They have PlugShare, ChargePoint, and all these different apps.
Right now,
So-
you guys are sounding awfully defensive because I can also Google every single business in
Why don't I-
Greenbelt, but
we're
there's
sort
also a
of-
business
We're
directory.
at time. We're
Okay.
trying to really
Okay, so
trying to
the
move
main,
this
okay,
along. Yes.
I wanted to
please.
know if there was a list. I wanted to know if the people that gave you the grant money might have thrown in the $150 for the first year. And also, I did want to point out that it is a form of economic development for the city. Every time someone parks right here, they go shopping for an hour and a half while they're charging them. And it is a form of economic development that the businesses that Ms. Weaver was referring to are getting people to shop because they have the charging station. Even the Greenbelt
Ms.
Co-op
Rosenthal.
pharmacy they allow you to buy your prescriptions at a very low price because they want you to shop at the pharmacy. There is a
Right,
trade-off of
right.
economic development. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, please. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll refer that to our legislative contractor and make it a priority and figure out the best way to either opt out for public sector, have parity on the gas pumps. So with the COG assignments, Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments has a number of committees and boards, and these committees set policy, make recommendations for policy set by the Board of Directors. Is there any way we can put that up on the screen? I was looking over the list, and so we have a new city council person, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to serve on a couple of the committees. But, first, is anybody not happy with the committee that they're serving on? Because just looking at that list, I see a couple of council members have 3 different committees, and it's really hard to actually physically go down to attend some of the meetings during the day. So that question of flexibility, but just in glancing at that list, I don't know, Mayor Pro Tem Weaver with the Air Quality Committee, at the last meeting, I think you said you'd be maybe flexible with the lead on that one and still keeping the lead on TPB and alternate on the Board of Directors.
Yeah, I'd like to keep TPB because I feel like, I think that was a bit of a learning curve to figure out how all that worked. Because it's a little bit complicated. I don't go to Metro Washington Air Quality Committee in person. I attend virtually. It is Wednesday from like 12 or 12:30 to 2, so I can only attend it virtually sometimes. So if somebody else wanted to be primary on that one, I attend it as much as I can, but I cannot always make it to that one.
So let me ask, unless another council member wants to just jump on that, Mr. Fritz, would you be interested in maybe taking that on?
I'd be happy to take any of the other committees, but I'd prefer not that one.
Oh my. Well,
If I may.
yes, please.
So I'm going to be the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Water Resources Policy Committee.
Woo!
Woohoo! But I'm also on CEPSI, the Climate, Energy, and Environment Policy Committee. So if Mr. Fritz was interested in that, I'd be happy for him to serve on that committee since I'm taking on additional responsibilities on my other committee. If that's something you're interested in.
What do you say, council member?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. And let's see, CPC, is that Climate, Energy?
Climate, Energy, Environment Policy Committee.
Okay, because I was going to suggest
They're
that as
pretty
a
active.
secondary. They're very active. And the other one that I noticed, the Farm Committee, which I know Council Member McKinney is passionate about that, just passionate. But there's no secondary person to back her up on that.
And happily take the alternate spot for that as well.
Okay, they have some great tours every year of community gardens throughout the region. Okay, so that being said, can I have a motion to adopt the committee, unless anybody else want to change their responsibilities? Because it is a responsibility.
I was going to say, I am also open, the Farm Policy Committee and the Human Services Policy Committee often overlap, but if that is something that Mr. Fritz, the Human Services Policy Committee, if that's something that you are interested in, I'm willing to, if you wanted to serve on that, I can serve as a secondary because it looks like Ms. Pope, you are secondary on several. So if you wanted to switch around, we could do that as well.
Well, what say you, council member? Is that something you are more passionate about than farm?
Well, I'm the alternate. I think I'm farm. So I think.
Yes, I'd like to stay primary on farm.
Primary. Oh, right. Okay.
Right, but if you wanted to become primary on human services, if that's something you're interested in, I'm happy to become the alternate on that but then if Ms. Pope is willing to not become the alternate, because that would mean something. It looks like Ms. Pope is alternate on 3 different committees.
You are most welcome to have that.
I think I'll start with Climate, Energy, and Environment Committee, and if I get my arms around that, I will look to expand my oeuvre. But I think otherwise, I think I'm content for now. But thank you for the offer.
All right.
Sounds good. Any other suggestions? If not, can I have a motion to adopt the committee assignments?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so City Clerk Anderson, you can forward that to COG at your convenience. They usually ask at the end of the year. So that's going to bring us to item number 19, council reports. Anybody got a report? There's so many things that have happened. Certainly, I would like to provide a report, but given the late hour, I'm not going to say anything. Anybody else?
Hold it for later.
Okay, council activities. It's been, yeah.
Listed some, but I didn't know who was.
Yeah,
at that, so
I
I'm sorry.
added, I think I added, so if anybody sees anything they attended that they missed, just let me know. But yes, here's the,
Just so you, I didn't leave anybody out on purpose. I just didn't know where you.
yeah, I
were.
transferred it over from the spreadsheet for any that I saw that people had added in. So I don't know.
I'll just say that the Venture Cruise Winter Wonderland was lovely and wintry and very cold. But this is, even though it was so cold, this was their best fundraising year to date. They raised like $1,800, I think.
Nice.
Which is, yeah, the most they've ever raised. I think we were all a little worried because it was going to be so cold that people weren't going to come. But, I think a lot of the young families, like kids, don't really feel the cold. So it was very successful. So thank you. I know several of you attended. And thank you all for doing that and supporting our youth.
Hey, one thing I'd like to point out, on the 26th, there's a Greenbelt, there's an interfaith holiday service, and this year it was over at Miscantora, and there was a joint choir with participants from various denominations, and that's always a nice occasion, so I was really happy to be able to attend and just see what was going on there. Just so many things. Sparkle Mart, Farmers Market last time. Anything you want? Anybody else want to point out? Really? Oh, I can't see them. Oh man, look at those. Man, beautiful.
Okay. Lots of,
Unique things. I mean, it's great. It's awesome.
I think calling out, I think we maybe mentioned it earlier, but the American Job Center opening, that was really nice. And I think that's a great resource to have in the city of Greenbelt. That's exciting to have seen that sort of officially open, even though they've been doing some stuff there for a while, but nice to have the official opening.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and pivot to meetings. So I'd like to add that meeting on the 5th to focus in on what we're going to talk the cell phone towers. And
The 7th for
7th.
Collective bargaining.
Okay.
Talk about expanding that. 7th.
Okay. Sure, it's always with a work session like that. What's the other date that's open, Mayor Pro Tem?
It looks like the 14th.
Well, how about the 14th?
That's fine. I'm here then.
Any other, we're just trying to send out some invitations. A lot of these work sessions really come down to the availability of people. I'm very interested in kind of circling back and having a broader discussion about mobility, about transit, about pedestrian and bike folks. We haven't really had that discussion in a while, but I'm not sure that we'll be ready for that on the 7th. So I think we should maybe just leave that open as to be determined and see what we can fill in over the next week.
I would propose that if we don't get anything filled in there by, I don't know, the middle of December or maybe the whatever the, I think that we should set a point where if we haven't filled anything in there, we just say there's no work session. maybe the 19th, if we haven't filled anything in by next Friday, the 19th, for the 5th or the 7th, then we just have those as no work session.
Fifth is gonna be.
Oh, right, sorry, so the 7th, sorry, just the 7th, right, because we moved that one to the 14th.
I just really want to be here for that.
Yeah, okay, so the 5th is cell phone towers. 5th is a cell phone, okay, so then if we haven't filled anything in for the 7th by December 19th, I think that we should declare that no work session, because I think that gets into the holidays and notice for people, so.
Well,
Yeah, that's on the 14th.
Right.
Because Ms. Pope wanted to move that to the 14th because she's not available on the 7th.
Okay, let's, somebody make a motion, please.
It's one other thing, because we talked about the 21st as being the city manager's quarterly update.
Right, right.
And so that's also listed as TBD here, but I think, so that sort of fills us in.
Mr. Summer?
Yeah, and I believe I heard Councilmember Fritz request a work session on the traffic calming study.
No, the 5th is the,
That's something that could be folded into this broader work session talking about mobility issues in general, cars, bikes, pedestrians, traffic calming, stuff like that. It's just a thought. Yeah, hold on, sir. You can't hear?
Sorry.
Yeah, if you, would raise your hand, but, yeah, please, could you repeat
So,
yourself,
no,
please?
I said maybe that's something you want to do on the 7th, because I was here previously for those work sessions, but he would like to have an update or a deep dive into the study.
Okay, well, do you think staff would be prepared to do that? APB also would probably.
Oh, well,
It's
probably
kinda
not.
like-
I can't speak for APB. But if we're just doing a review of how we led up to the traffic study and what went into it, we basically, what it does is you're doing a deeper dive of what you did today. What the previous work session, council was brought up to speed on where the work, what the work has resulted, and just working through all those sites identified. So it's really just a deeper dive of a 400-page document.
And I would also be fine, maybe we could do that offline, if other folks feel acclimated to the issue, since maybe I could do a briefing offline. It doesn't need to be a full council thing, if other people feel comfortable in the issue. I don't feel a need to call a unique work session for that, if there's not going to be any new information. But I thought, just wanted, either way, folks want, if a majority, if a quorum wants to meet about it, I would be interested in meeting about it. But if not, I'm sure I could ascertain more information in meetings with staff, or send my questions to staff.
well, I wonder, another way to think about it would be, is that an opportunity for not a work session, but maybe something more to share with the public? Because I think there was a public session related with APB, but I don't know if there's been like more of a frame that as more of a town hall presentation, sharing information about but gear it not towards council, but towards the public about the results of the traffic calming study, because we have gotten a lot of questions about that. So I don't know if we do that in a different way, but rather than thinking of it as a council work session, I think thinking about it as public communication might be better.
Well, and we did do, they did do an entire presentation. They had the sticky notes up on
Yeah.
the board. Like everyone was very much involved in that. If we're talking though about, Mayor Jordan is talking about more accessibility focused things that could be an overlap. To me, it almost sounds as though we need to send something back to APB. And what I'm wondering, this might be an opportunity for us to ask them to prioritize some of the options so that we have somewhere to start. And then that can be where they give us 10 options, and that's what we float to the public and say, these are the 10 options. Just spitballing, but I'm trying to think, what's the best way that we can kind of get everything done and all of the information to everyone?
Yeah, I think that's going to take longer than January 7th. though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I 100% agree.
So maybe I think that this isn't the right time for that.
I would think there's merit in either approach, but definitely we don't need to duplicate is my main view. So I don't feel a need for it to be on the 5th, I guess.
Well, let's take a vote. Somebody make a motion?
Yeah, well, I think we were still figuring out what the motion was going to be. So right now it sounds like, so so the 5th is the cell towers. The 7th is empty right now and doesn't, the 14th is the collective bargaining, and the 21st is the city manager's quarterly update. So
That's
those
right,
are,
that's right.
those are, I move that as the adjustments to the meeting schedule.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Oh, and with the, sorry, with the, if there's nothing on there by the 19th, on the 7th by the 19th, then it becomes a no work session. Sorry.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, so next, we need to go into an executive session.
We have the two items on.
Oh,
the
I'm sorry,
consent agenda.
So item number 22 is the item that has to do with the fireworks. So, Councilmember Fritz? the
Yeah, I'll
floor is
just,
open.
I feel like this is, and I thank the members of the public, the member of the public who expressed concern about this. This is something I've been weighing a lot, and I think just maybe one more time, just going over, looking over the memo, what was the cost increase from last year, just so the public, as we vote on this, I just want people to understand the numbers, because this is something this is an issue I did not hear a lot about on the campaign trail. I think a lot of people did not think that this was going to be an issue. So I wanted to just have the numbers out there. So what was the cost increase from between the last contract and this contract?
We negotiated down to just a $2,000 increase, 20,000 to 22,000.
What was it, and that come along with like a reduction in service relative to like the number of fireworks? I don't.
On the contrary, what we reduced was a floating device on the water. So eliminating that feature or service, but in exchange, we got more shells. More shells meaning fireworks that go up in the air.
So people can expect an even more fantastic show this year.
Actually, last year was, my personal opinion, the best show that we had, because we introduced the faux finale. And so the faux finale, you think, oh, it's over, and then boom, and it comes back. And so that was the additional shells that we exchanged for not having the floating device on the water and shooting the shells from the water.
Definitely fooled me.
Yeah, and I, as someone who loves the fireworks show, I think, just to see how over capacity we are every year, and the amount that it brings our community together, I think that, and I think relevant was this, I think it was the first email I got after I was elected was about fireworks. And I was like, it set, I don't know, in my mind, it set the tone for a lot. But I think it is just relevant to hear, that there are, that this is an issue that some communities have moved away from. I know some communities no longer do fireworks shows, and I think that I'm glad that staff did look into alternatives, but obviously from the memo and the packet, those alternatives are not close to fiscally viable. So I think, this is going to move forward this year, and I will vote for it, but I did think I just wanted to make sure there's a little bit of discussion to explain the decision, but also to note the source of the increased costs, one of the factors being federal policy impacting our ability, impacting the market as well. So that was a cost driver for us. So I wanted to explain my vote. Yes, that I do understand that there's concerns about it. I also understand there's a lot of favor for this in the community. So those are things just to balance as a council.
Well, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I think I think it's worth noting that the cost for the drone show, the minimum is about $40,000. And then it goes up, the middle option of 200 drones is $80,000, and the best show, which of course the vendor would recommend for 300 drones, is $120,000. So the drones are a lot more expensive. I think if this is something that I know some people really love the fireworks, some people really hate the fireworks because it affects their dogs and others. But I think if it's something, first, the drones cannot fit cost-wise. It's just a whole lot more expensive. And I think if we wanted to make other changes, it would take a whole lot more community engagement before we did that. And I think honestly, we might almost need like a task force for fireworks. If that's something we want to do for 27, I think we need to start now and do community engagement for a long time before we make changes, because this is a big issue.
Okay, Councilmember Pope.
Yeah, that is a big issue. It's really hard, right? Because I do understand the points that people make about the wildlife and the dogs, and I understand that, right? So I don't take my dogs outside during that time. They are indoors, curtains closed, door closed, they're staying indoors, right? But on the other hand, the community comes together, and other communities come to us, to our town, and explore. They're there all day, right? And so the only suggestion I would have now, I will vote for this as well, but maybe a different location where we're doing it. Maybe not right by the lake. Maybe not, because there is a lot of wildlife around the lake. Maybe there's an alternative to the location. Maybe that is something we could maybe explore, but probably not for this upcoming event, but yes.
So I think we need to make a motion.
Yeah, please do.
Unless, Ms. Pompey, do you want to?
I was just going to make a
Yeah.
motion to authorize the city manager to approve an award contract to Innovative Pyrotechnic Concepts LLC in the amount of $22,000.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Niesel seconded. Is there any additional discussion from council?
Nope.
Okay, Ms. Rosenthal?
I think we need to move on. I'm sorry, Ms. Rosenthal, but we have a closed session we have to get to, and we have one more item. And I think I think we need to move on. I'm sorry, Ms. Rosenthal, unless,
Well,
yeah.
item number.
So we
I'm
got to
sorry.
vote. We got to vote.
Yeah, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The measure carries. And item number 23 has to do with natural gas purchase. Councilmember?
I have no opposition to the item. Because a resident brought it up, I thought we might as well vote on both, just have a formal vote on it, so.
Is there any additional discussion? Would you like to make a motion?
I motion to authorize the city manager to execute the contract for renewal of a gas supply for the city facilities. Do I have to read the amount? I don't see the amount. Is at the end? For the amount of.
Oh, I'm sorry, it does have no amount. It's based on consumption. What we're buying is at
Rate.
0.58 cents a therm.
For the rate of 0.58 or.
Yeah, 0.58. There's a 58 cents a therm.
Yes.
Cents a therm.
For a period of 1 year.
For a period of 1 year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Pope is seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I wish we had more time, but we really don't. We have an executive session to move into. So, Member Pro Tem?
I move that, where's the beginning of this? I move that where's the beginning of my session? That's just, yes, I can, that, it has the language, but it doesn't have the I moved to. Oh, maybe it's on here. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, pulled up the wrong document. I move that council go into closed session in accordance with section 3-305B, 1, 7, and 8 of the general provisions article of the annotated code of the public general laws of Maryland, immediately following the regular council meeting, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. 2, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. And 3, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. The purpose of this meeting is 1, to discuss personnel matters, 2, to obtain legal advice on a legal matter, and 3, to get an update on on a pending or potential legal matter. In addition to council, city manager Josue Samaron and city solicitor Jason Deloach will be in the meeting. Note that council will not return to open session following this closed session.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Fritz,
Aye.
Councilmember Niesel,
Yes.
Councilmember McKinney,
Yes.
Councilmember Pompey,
Yes.
Councilmember Poe,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
To get Danielle back.
She drop off?
No, she's
there.
No, she's still here.
Got to kick off everyone else.
Wait, and we close the meeting, or?
No, she can stay. Are you able to leave your computer up?